Am Yisrael Chai. So that was Ahlan Beek by the Moroccan-Israeli Elkan Marziano and the Emirati Walid Al-Jassem, a Abraham Accords collaboration, and it kind of leads itself nicely into a couple of the themes that we want to talk about today. Obviously, hopes of peace and security for Israelis, Palestinians, and the wider Middle East that we saw heralded in the form of the Abraham Accords, but also a really important series of things that we're doing today for the first time, celebrating the history and heritage and the contemporary contribution of Mizrahi Jews to the Jewish world here in the UK, in Israel, and around the world. As the first Board of Deputies President of Part Mizrahi Heritage, this matters a great deal to me. And so this morning, in a historical first, we're going to be doing a range of things that commemorate today, a very important anniversary. The 30th of November was designated by the Knesset as the day that recognises the expulsion of Jews from Arab lands and Iran. And this is one of the things that we spoke about in our Commission on Racial Inclusivity in the Jewish Community, speaking to the story of the Jewish communities of the Mizrach. So today's plenary is going to have something of a feature of that. And first of all, very shortly, we're going to hear from Lynn Julius, co-founder of Harif, who is going to be speaking about that. And I thank her, and I thank Lawrence, the deputy of Harif, for the continued work that they've done to make sure that this issue gets the attention that it should, and we're going to be taking that forward in a number of ways. You'll have seen just a week or so ago, we noted as well in the frame of that Commission on Racial Inclusivity, SIGD, celebrating the Ethiopian Jewish Festival of SIGD. And as the plenary goes on, we're going to have a range of different things. Rabbi Dweck will be addressing us in one of his last addresses to the Jewish community before he makes Aliyah. Obviously, he is of Syrian heritage as well. The Sephardi Mizrahi theme will continue with our own treasurer, Ben Crown, of Bevis Marks, who's going to be doing a presentation on the work of the FF&O. Of course, 265 years ago this month, the Board of Deputies was founded by Bevis Marks. So it's very a delight to have that connection over there. And of course, at the end of the plenary, we're going to be having Kiddush, sponsored by the Sassoons, as celebrate a very special wedding, which we're going to hear a bit more about in a bit. The Sassoons are, as it happens, of Iraqi heritage. So there's a very strong Mizrahi theme running through today, and lots to do. And I must say that this plenary is not the only bit that we're going to be doing on this. Later this week, we're going to be hosting with Pages a joint conference for the heads of Jewish studies across Jewish schools in this country to talk about how we can mark the experience of Mizrahi Jews, Jews of colour and black Jews in Jewish studies curricula, which is a very, very important thing for us to be doing. Stephen Bush will be joining. This is an important part of fulfilling the commitments we made through the Commission on Racial Inclusivity in the Jewish community some time ago. Friends, we continue to remain in a challenging series of contexts, and I just want to reflect on some of those now. Obviously, we're in the post-Heaton Park context in terms of the anti-Semitism that we've faced, and there have been some alarming things even since that tragedy that we've had to engage with. Obviously, the last time we met in Manchester with Rabbi Walker present, we were speaking also about the very concerning decision to ban the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv from the Aston Villa game. We've also seen challenges at the BBC, a problem at the synagogue St John's Wood last week, the continued craziness we see with some of the medics in the NHS, and the revelations of that Palestine Action activists allegedly attacked a police officer with a sledgehammer. But I got to say that this comes in it frames an interesting thing that I think is happening. With the ceasefire in place, we've seen obviously the difficulties in the Middle East come off the front pages, but some of the extremist activists have continued to become more extreme, I think, to project their message into the media. And what I would say about that is this marks a challenge, but also I think we can see that the tide is turning. Because on each of those issues, we see that the West Midlands police decision is being incredibly dragged through the media. We're seeing that coming under rightful scrutiny. On the BBC, we've seen resignations at the top of that organisation, and we're pushing for the opportunity to be used, thank you very much, the opportunity to be used to see changes in that organisation. At St John's Wood, we saw the police apply powers to change to prevent the protesters being outside, and when some of them breached those conditions, they were arrested. Indeed, we saw, I think, 90 arrests yesterday across the country for people involved in those protests. In the GMC, we're seeing action finally being taken against some of the noxious medics and others who have been really damaging to the medical profession. We're seeing that happening. And of course, Palestine Action is being exposed for the terrorists that they are in terms of the sledgehammer attack. And it's been, I think, astounding to see Amnesty International coming out for them. You know, the human rights of the police officers being attacked with sledgehammers, completely forgotten in all of that. And I think we need to see that. But I think it's important that we continue to keep on, don't let up, and make sure that we move ahead with purpose. And we're seeing that as these extremists become more and more revealed, the state is becoming more and more supportive of us. Lots more to do, nonetheless. In Israel, of course, I mentioned that we are in the wake of a ceasefire. It's delicate, it's tentative, but we've taken the opportunity to move some of those things forward. I've been really pleased in recent weeks to do a number of events with the Bahrain Embassy, speaking about the Abraham Accords and what we can do to move those forward. In the last few weeks, we've had a number of Israeli and Palestinian peace activists come through the board's offices to speak about the way we can perhaps capture a peace dividend, and I think something really important for us to be working on. I do want to comment on the situation that we've seen in the West Bank of late, and that's been concerning on a number of levels. Of course, and you would expect me to say this, the terrorist attacks by Palestinian groups that have murdered Israelis and continue to cause trouble remind us that we don't just need to see the removal of Hamas from Gaza, as we've called for in the past, but we also need to see the drastic and urgent reform of the Palestinian Authority to end the incitement that we've seen and to end that pay-for-say policy. It's really important that that Israelis can live in peace. But we've also seen, and it saddens me to say it, violent settler attacks on Palestinians at an incredibly alarming rate. And rightly, the President of Israel, the Prime Minister of Israel, the Foreign Minister of Israel, the Chief of Staff of the IDF have condemned those attacks on Palestinians and their property. But as so often we need to say, we don't just need to see words, we need to see action on that. I think we are all aware that the Torah prohibits destruction to fruit-bearing trees, including in times of war. And so it's important that we recognize that these acts are not just crimes against man, but sins against God. And we need to see action taken against them. It's really important that we do. Despite the challenges that we face, and there are many challenges, we as a board continue with passion, pride and purpose to fulfill the mandate that we've put forward. Many of you will have seen, you're involved in us crafting together the board plan. And at the executive meeting just over a week ago, we looked at the board plan and our progress against it. I'm really proud to say that as we reach this midpoint in the triennial cycle, we are 95% of the board plan is underway, 20% of it is completed. I'm really proud of the work that we as a team, both lay leaders and staff, are doing together to make sure that we take action to drive forward the community and, as we say in the board plan, forge together a brighter future for the UK Jewish community. Very proud of what we're doing there. It falls to me, though, to say a few mazel tovs, and I'm glad to say we this time actually don't have any other things than mazel tovs to say. So first of all, very delighted to say to Deputy Rob Sassoon, mazel tov on your marriage to Savannah Hersov. To Deputy Richard Sassoon on the marriage of his son Rob to Savannah Hersov. Yeah. To Deputy Philip Diamond and his wife Evelyn on the recent marriage of their grandson in Israel. Yeah. Mazel tov to past President Vivian Wyman on the birth of a granddaughter. Mazel tov to Deputy Rosalind Lind on her forthcoming silver wedding anniversary.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov to the Executive Director of Pikuach, Janine Rose, on the engagement of her daughter.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov to past President Marie van der Zyl on her 60th birthday.
50th.
Yeah.
21st. Do I hear anything?
We can go lower the bids. Mazel tov to Deputy Josh Aronson for his graduation with a master's degree in international journalism at Salford University. Great to have you. And mazel tov to Deputy Kay Vierber on her niece's bat mitzvah. Mazel tov, Kay. Mazel tov to everybody. And with that, just one housekeeping note, that you might note that we are in a different order here. We've started a little bit earlier, and apologies to deputies coming in from the regions. That's because, we've had to turn around. It's because here at JW3 they have a pantomime coming up there. Oh, no, they don't. I wondered who would come forward with that. They have a pantomime coming forward. So we've had to slightly rearrange our time and things. So the Kiddush will be afterwards. And with that, thank you, deputies. I hand back over to Karen Newman to chair the meeting.
Thank you very much, Phil. I was going to set my independence about 5 minutes ago and say, Phil, I'm going to have to hurry you, but it was really important to listen to all those announcements. But it does mean I need to ask everybody else to be extra disciplined if we're to stay on time. General deputy conduct, just need to ask you please to be polite, no slander. It's all very much appreciated when you are polite. The fire alarm, we're not expecting a fire alarm, so if you hear an alarm, please be alarmed and then leave in an orderly manner. The toilets are where they were last time, just 90 degrees apart, so they're up there to the right. This meeting is not going to be live streamed, but it will be available on the board's YouTube channel, hopefully as of tomorrow. There are members of the press on the call, so please bear that in mind when you make your interventions. I need to ask everybody online, if you are identified as something like iPad 3, I need you to replace that with your names. And if you are an under 35 deputy, it's really great if you can put that in your name, under 35 deputy, so that if we have to go to a vote, it's much easier to administer that and to put you in the waiting room, as is our obligation. I will encourage first-time speakers to speak and people who don't speak very often, so those of you who speak quite a lot may only be called on once, just to warn you about that. And finally, to say particularly to the deputies online, if you could make sure that when you do speak, your camera is on and you don't speak like that so that we can actually see your mouths. That's a great help to the people who, for whom that's helpful. Finally, I would ask you if your phone is on, please turn it off. Or at the very, very least, to silent. Okay, Jeremy, I see that you online, you want the floor. I will give it to you if you're going to be very, very quick, because I'm very keen to invite Lynn Julius to take the floor. So, Jeremy, it's yours, but if you're quick.
Oh, it was just, so I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time. It was just to ask a question.
Could you unmute?
Oh,
we cannot hear you.
Can you not hear me now?
That's good.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time. I was going to ask a question to Phil in regard to an international relations matter.
I will take that under the Honorary Officer's agenda item later on, if I may. So if you could hold on to your question, you have my word that I will call upon you then. Lynn Julius, it gives me great pleasure to say that the floor is yours.
Ahlan wa sahlan. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me today, the 30th of November. It is a real honor. What is special about the 30th of November? This date in the calendar, as Phil mentioned, was designated by the Knesset in 2014 to commemorate the expulsion of Jews from Arab countries and Iran. The 30th of November was chosen because it is the day after the 29th of November, 1947, the day when the UN passed the Palestine Partition Plan. The rejection of that resolution triggered riots in several Arab countries and the start of a mass exodus of Jews. A resolution has just been tabled in the US Congress to have the 30th of November recognized as Jewish Refugee Day, and we ought, or we must, get our MPs to do the same at Westminster. What is this all about? It's about the mass exodus of almost 1 million Jews, a larger number than Palestinians who left Israel, and the largest displacement of non-Muslims from the Middle East and North Africa. Their property and assets valued at $263 billion, were stolen by Arab governments without compensation. Private land seized from Jews amounted to Jordan and Lebanon combined. The Jews also suffered a cultural genocide, synagogues, cemeteries, shrines destroyed, their rich heritage obliterated. Just look at this chart.
Maybe I can.
Baghdad once had proportionately more Jews than New York or Warsaw, but 99% of the Jews have fled Arab countries. A whole civilization has been extinguished. Only 4,000 remain. There are more Arabs in Tel Aviv than there are Jews in the Arab world. This was ethnic cleansing, and on the 7th of October 2023, Hamas tried to finish the job. But we are confronted with denial, obfuscation, and inversion of the truth. A Palestinian called Ahmed Khalidi is a lone voice, it seems, to accuse Jews forced to leave Arab countries of ethnic cleansing is the gaslight of the century, he wrote. Sadly, people like him are very rare. The other thing you see on this chart is that these communities were very old, and some go back to biblical times. In fact, most go back to the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd century before the Christian era, and some even to the 6th century. That's 2,500 years ago. The Arab occupation or colonization of the region was the largest and longest in the Middle East. After the 7th century, millions of Persians, Berbers, Copts, Arameans, Jews, Greeks, and others suddenly found themselves under Arab rule, and their languages and faiths were pushed aside. So next time you hear the false narrative of European settler colonialism, think of this chart. To quote Khalidi again, it's historic amnesia to call Jews colonizers. They predated Islam by 1,000 years or more and were indigenous, certainly in relation to Arabs and Turks. So what was the relationship between Jews and Muslims during the 14 centuries that they lived alongside each other? There was a cultural symbiosis that was absent in the Christian world. There were intellectual golden ages. But symbiosis is not the same as coexistence, which assumes an equality in the relationship. Jews and Christians were dhimmis. They were inferior to Muslims because they had failed to convert to the ultimate religion of Islam. They had few rights. They had to submit to restrictions and humiliations and subcontract their right to self-defense to the ruler of the day in exchange for attacks. A form of racial segregation, you might say, apartheid even. The situation only improved in the colonial era when Jews and Christians gained equality with the Muslims. The colonial era was a golden age, which Jews born in these countries sometimes view with nostalgia. But all this came to an end with the rise of anti-Semitism. Arab nationalism marginalized non-Muslim minorities. Jews were also unfairly accused of being collaborators with colonialism, although they had lived in the region long before the Arabs. On the 7th of October 2023, a man called Shlomo Mansour was thought to have been taken alive from his kibbutz into Gaza. He would have been the oldest hostage at 85. Sadly, he was murdered. More tragic still, he had survived a massacre that took place in Iraq 7 years before Israel was founded, the Farhud. Shlomo and another 650,000 Jewish refugees from Arab countries, the majority, sought refuge in Israel. Israel was the solution, not the cause of Arab anti-Semitism. So if anyone tells you that Muslims and Jews lived in perfect harmony before Israel, tell them about the 1941 Farhud, or a massacre in Libya 80 years ago, or a massacre in Morocco in 1912. I could go on. The 1941 Farhud massacre in Iraq was inspired by Nazism. The driving force behind the Farhud was the pro-Nazi Palestinian Mufti of Jerusalem, Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was in Iraq at the time. He intended...
Lynn, I'm embarrassed to do this. Can I give you a 2-minute warning?
Okay. He intended to exterminate the Jews, not just in Palestine, but throughout the Arab world. He spent the rest of World War II in Berlin broadcasting genocidal propaganda. Islamist anti-Semitism, a Nazi-inspired form of anti-Semitism, is still with us today. The Mufti was allied with the Muslim Brotherhood, Gaza branch Hamas. The Muslim Brotherhood agitated against the Jews from the 1930s onwards in Egypt. And just read the Hamas charter. This dangerous and genocidal ideological legacy is still with us. Why is the issue of the Exodus still relevant today after 70 years? One, because it is an unresolved injustice. Over half Israel's Jews are refugees from Arab countries themselves or their descendants, and a peace settlement that does not recognize them would not lead to true peace and reconciliation. Two, because history is repeating itself, not just because of the Islamist threat. We have had to endure a tsunami of Jew hatred in the West. Anti-Semitism flourishes when the forces of law and order appease the bullies and the inciters, when the police do nothing or arrest Jews for provoking the mob with a kippah or a Star of David. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen this movie before in Arab and Muslim countries, and we must learn the lessons of history. We must teach the history, culture, and heritage of Middle East and North African Jews in Jewish schools. And Phil, we welcome your encouragement and commitment to make this happen. The story of these Jews is a vital part of Jewish history. Every Jew needs to think of himself or herself as if he or she came out of Iraq or Libya or Syria, and treat this history as his own. And Harif can help you get the message to your congregants, to students, politicians, and the media. Thank you very much. I have some brochures about Harif if you'd like them. Please come to me, and also plug for my book, Uprooted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I'm sorry that it'll be difficult for me to take any questions at the moment, but Lynn's going to be here, and hopefully in the break you'll be able to ask questions if you have any. So thank you so very much, Lynn, for that great presentation. I'm going to ask Adrian if you can thank her more fully.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen. First of all, just to thank Lynn. You're so incredibly passionate and you have amazing erudition and knowledge of the subject, and really to thank you for all the incredible hard work that you do in relation to the heritage and history and the politics around Jews of the North Africa and Middle East, Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews. If ever there was an example of Jews don't count, it's really the history of the 850,000 plus Jews who have been expelled from the various countries in North Africa and the Middle East. And it is on multiple levels. It's a continuing problem. I mean, I know of the few attempts that there have been to recreate communities in some of these countries. Personally, I had some involvement in northern Iraq, Kurdistan, and the resistance to it is quite telling. And the statistics you gave about populations compared in Tel Aviv to the rest of the Middle East, I think really does sum it up. But I just also want to say there's a lot of very positive work. And I mean, I just took a quick look at the Harif website, and just in the next couple of months, there are some amazing events. So Beyond Lutker's, a Sephardi a Sephardi comparison. So sometimes I'm accused, I think others are, of Ashkenormative behaviour. So I'm sure that that's one to go to. But Moroccan Jews in the Americas is another example. So just to pick those out, really to give an example of the breadth of everything that is conducted. And it'd be good as well if it's part of the Jewish Culture Month as well to make that integral to it. So just finally, just to say again, thank you very much for coming today, for all the work that you do, not just COREEF, but the wider community as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm disposed to get minutes when I can. The next item of the agenda is approval of the minutes. I have asked Andrew if we got any comments into the office on the minutes, and we didn't. So unless I see a hand go up in the next 2 seconds, I'm going to take those minutes as read. Is that okay with everybody? Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Good. So those minutes are the minutes of our meeting on the 19th of October 2025 are so approved. With that, I'm going to hand over to Ben to open today's open forum.
Thanks very much, Karen. I should flag that we are half an hour into the meeting and already 10 minutes over schedule. So, pretty half the course, but I will speak rapidly and then we'll take questions as we can. I want to try and run through 5 different things in this agenda item this morning, another ambitious Board of Deputies target. So please bear with me. First of all, an update on our finances this year, then an update on the FFO parts of the board plan, then a preview of 2026 and the financial side, a little bit about fundraising, and then a couple of things in my current report in the board pack, which I want to highlight and bring to people's attention. Once I've done that, we'll take some questions, and ideally I'd like to wrap up about 11:45 to hand over to the deputy engagement team, Judith and Lisa in the front row over there, to talk through that in more detail. And then anyone who does want to follow up in more detail with me is welcome to speak to me directly or to come to the next FFO meeting in early January. So first off, deputies do have my treasurer's report, so I will just very quickly say that 2025 has been a very positive year for the board financially. That's in line, obviously, with our overall approach to Triennium, as Phil says all the time. We're not here to manage the decline of this organisation. We're going for growth. Growth needs funding. And our core income, which is from the common contribution rep fee, has gone up this year. Our investment portfolio is up despite the dilution level we had to pay in January of leaving our old funds. We've continued to bring in income from legacies, and the 80th anniversary Yom HaShoah event ran to a modest surplus. So that's all kicking on quite nicely. But above all, we have very significantly increased our fundraising, which has brought in over £500,000 between the crowd fund, match donors, grant awards, support from community foundations. Our total income for the year is going to top out between 1.8 and 2 million against a budget of about 1.45, which is by some way our best year of the last decade. Possibly our best year ever if you don't count the time we literally sold our building. And much of that surplus is funds that we've raised now we're going to spend next year and the year after, which we'll get to in due course. On the cost side, we're currently running a little under budget, but December's always an expensive month, so I think we'll end up being pretty much on target on there. And if you put the favourable income and on-budget costs together, we're anticipating a surplus for the year about £300,000 or £400,000. So very positive year. And we all should be very appreciative of the work of, particularly the FFO and seeing its performance, and everyone who's helped to fundraise for it. In terms of the board plan, which again I think is in the plenary pack, and deputies have been sent, I think, 3 or 4 times over the course of the year. There were 9 specific targets for the FFO under the overall heading of enhance the board's finances and fundraising. 4 of those were specific actions which have been done: change the name of the division to the Finance, Fundraising and Organisation Division, a crowdfunder in 2025, thank you very much, appoint fundraising staff. We have an ongoing consultant who we're using for grant applications, and to review and update, as deputies will recall from previous meetings, our investment and reserves policies. 4 more were priorities for ongoing action, which you've had updates from me on over the course of the year: develop new sources of funding, grants, legacies, and so forth, promote and enhance the common contribution, continue and enhance our work with major donors, and then ensure the processes enable us to manage the various risks around the organisation and the threats and challenges we face. And then the ninth is the overarching goal to ensure the board's finances are well managed and sustainable for the long term, which we are in good shape on, but obviously needs to be kept on top of. And that brings me to the preliminary outlook for 2026. Obviously, we don't have a budget at this point. We're going to be working on that over the next 5 or 6 weeks, and there'll be a summary in the January pack. Broadly in 2026, we're going to continue at our current activity level. We've stepped up, as everyone's aware, over the last 18 months. So we are going to keep core operations more or less with that staffing activity level, with the addition of the first ever Jewish Culture Month and a full year of our Optimistic Alliance, the Inclusion and Disability Commission, which is sort of just getting underway now. When I presented to plenary last November, it was with a 5-year framework which would break even at that time period. That remains the goal. Obviously, we've had a very positive first year, but those are funds which we're going to be looking to spend down in 2026, 2027, and my successor in 2028 and 2029. And there are the 3 main components of that. First of all, we've raised money in particular for Jewish Culture Month and the Optimistic Alliance, which is mostly unspent now, but is restricted and will be spent down next year. Second, our surplus this year includes legacy income. We don't spend the legacy income all in one go. We allocate spending over several years. And then this year as well, we budgeted to draw down some of the gain from our investment portfolio, which has been reinvested over the years. We're not going to need to do that, so that will be reinvested again, and we will likely in 2026 draw some down, at least to manage our cash flow. So the 2026 budget will look a lot like 2025, both the actual and the current performance, current activities plus JCM. The income side will look a little bit lumpier in terms of new money, but will be boosted by the funds we brought forward. And overall, we're looking to fundraise at about the same number, about the same level this year as last, which brings me on to fundraising. This one I will keep quite short, because I think deputies now know everything I'm going to say. There are 4 main ways that deputies can help with our fundraising, and which we really need you to help in order to deliver on our plans. First of all, communal contribution. If you represent a synagogue, please encourage to take up the communal contribution. Please circulate the community briefing and other materials. More on that in a second. Please be available to members who have questions. Please encourage and facilitate visits by Phil and the other HOs. There's huge variation between communities in terms of the take-up and the rate of the communal contribution, but no one is paying at 100%. So any work done here flows straight through to our bottom line. Second of all, the crowd fund. After its success in 2025, we're going to look to likely run another one in 2026, probably around before or after Jewish Culture Month. This was such an excellent piece of work by so many people in this room, so many people online, and we hope even more of you will take it up next time round. Third of all, legacies. Just as we have benefited this year from funds bequeathed to us for many previous years, we need to lay the groundwork now for future boards. In 25 years' time, Phil could still be president, but I think that the rest of us will, obviously subject to term limits, and then your successor will return, and he will want to spend money then now as much as he does now. So myself and Michael and Phil will, over the course of the next year, over the course of 2026, try to speak to everyone, to every deputy individually, or you who want to be spoken to individually, about mention the board in your wills or other ways you can support the board over the long term. And number 4, this is now my 4th year as the board treasurer. In that time, we've raised probably hundreds of thousands of pounds from donors and foundations, where the original link came from a deputy, a 2-minute conversation with a deputy. You all know the range of work the board does. So if you're friendly with someone, if you sit next to someone on a plane or at a simcha, if friends have just moved to work at a foundation, please reach out. You don't have to ask for anything yourself. Just say, I'm involved with the board. They do a lot of work in the areas you like to fund. Can I make an introduction? And Michael and Phil and the professional team will take it from there. We're going to have a very busy and very successful 2026, but we need your help to fund and deliver it. And then finally, just a couple of quick points. First, I mentioned in my last report, I briefly mentioned now, the professional team are looking at a refresh of the community briefing and of comms around the common contribution. That will be in your inbox I think this coming week, certainly before Hanukkah, please let us have your thoughts on that. We're hoping to have a refreshed version out and resources for people as we head into the new year. Second of all, there is a I know that everyone, of course, reads every single plenary paper, but in the event you didn't, but they're arranged alphabetically, and in the event you didn't make it all the way to the W's, there is a document from the Constitution Committee about the informal WhatsApp groups that I understand some deputies are part of. Please read it. What it says in brief summary is these groups are voluntary, run by their moderators, not formal BOD structures. Nevertheless, they are within the scope of the board's code of conduct, and deputies are asked to behave as respectfully and considerately as they would outside a formal board setting, for example, at the Kiddush after this meeting. However, the bar for the code of conduct breach is going to be quite high. The Constitution Committee is not going to be interested in individual spats, in individual arguments on WhatsApp. They're not going to be interested in someone who's not allowed into a group, someone who's been asked to step back from a group for 24 hours. That's not what they're there for, but serious issues they will consider on a case-by-case basis and then keep records so that they are treated consistently. I'm not in any of these groups, but it all sounds very sensible to me. So just as a reminder, I talked through 2025 performance, progress of the board plan, 2026 outlook, fundraising, and then comms review and WhatsApp groups. I think if we take 10 minutes for questions, and then Judith and Lisa, that will give you about 12 minutes to present. And if there's fewer questions, so much the better. Questions, people come up to the microphone up there, people put their hands up online, and maybe if we take a couple at a time, and then I'll run through together.
Thank you very much, Ben, for going like a kind of steam train while at the same time being understandable and comprehensible. Really appreciate that. I meant at the beginning to welcome everybody online, particularly Michael Uyghur, who is joining us from Australia. Michael, thank you for being up and awake and with us. We really, really appreciate it. I'm going to try and go 2 by 2. So I'm going to take two speakers from the microphone in the room, and then I will take Ilan and Jeremy, who have both had their hand up for some time online.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to give you a minute each, and I'm going to be vicious.
Okay. Right, thank you very much. Just in the scheme of this, the theme of this meeting, I should also declare I'm totally indebted to Lynn Julius for the work that she's done. I was born in Cairo. I came here at the age of 7, and so I'm one of these refugees, and our plight would not have been, made public other than through Lynn. So thank you very much, Lynn. My question is on behalf of my community. We actually did invite Phil to come and address our community, and Malav Malki was very well received. And people asked him during the question time and asked me afterwards again, is this Phil paid? How has he financed this? And this led to a broader question about, well, what does the board president do? Compared to the chief executive. I think what
You're out of time. You need to stop in 5 minutes.
Right.
5 seconds, I mean.
5 seconds.
Sorry.
I'd like to propose that we have a working group look at the structure of the board, in particular the remuneration of the president, and that should be sponsored by Ben Crown.
Thank you.
We haven't looked at that.
Thank you.
Should we take a second question and then
I'll take the next question, and then we'll come on. So it's you and then the 2 online. Thank you.
Jonathan Brodie, Kingsbury Synagogue. When I was on the FNO, we did a detailed analysis of the communal contribution receipts from different shuls, and one of the trends that was very apparent was that shuls that have a deputy, we get much more money run than we do from ones that we don't. So I want to know, what are we doing to get more shuls with deputies actually appointed? Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. I'll just take those 2. We are obviously always looking to add deputies. I have a list of every community community synagogue organisation sent a deputy in the last 10 years, doesn't currently send one. They're all getting contacted, they're all on a list. I would say with one caveat, in almost all cases, synagogues with deputies send more common contribution. There are some very notable exceptions, so if you are a deputy, please treat your community with respect. please don't get into a row with your president, please, and so on and so forth. You represent us in that respect. I'm happy to take away the point around financial support for Phil. I know that many presidents over many years have found it very challenging to continue a career and then support themselves financially while they while being board president. Phil, I think that everyone knows, works amazingly hard on this job, out every weekend and so forth. We pay expenses, but I can't imagine that that's covering everything. I think let's have a think about it. Questions on
Good. Thank you very much. So it's Ilan, you have the floor, and then Jeremy.
I hope you can hear me.
No, it was no. We can't. No, Ilan, we can't hear you. We're getting feedback there.
Meeting. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. How's this? Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry about that. Listen, I just want to say that we are facing, and I feel we're facing, unprecedented difficulties. We all know that, and I think it's only going to get worse. And I think it's existential for the board that our leadership is paid, and irrespective of the individual, the role needs to be funded so that we can attract and allow the best people to apply. And Phil and the other HOs are doing excellent jobs, but I don't understand how they can do that and continue doing their jobs. So I think it's really important that we fund the role, and I just wanted to say that because I'm very grateful for what they're doing. We've achieved a huge amount, but there's so much more that we're going to have to do, and I fear that it's going to get so much worse. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Ilan. Jeremy, the floor is yours, and then we will take from the floor the father of the board.
Thank you very much indeed. And can I also add, Jeremy Havardi, Laboureth UK. Can I add my thanks also to Lynn for a very insightful presentation? My father's family was from Aden, so one of the countries she covers in her book. My question was to the President. I wondered if he was aware of Richard Bergen's International Court of Justice Advisory Opinion Bill, which is essentially designed to give effect to the ICJ advisory opinion from 2024, which brands Israel's occupation as illegal, which calls for it to end regardless of negotiations or anything the Palestinians have to do, and also calls for sanctions. But Bergen himself is a well-known, shall we say, left-wing provocateur, very, very anti-Israel, and has been, having said that, noticeably silent about Ukraine and the persecution of the Uyghurs. Obviously, I think it's important that he knows this because it's something that we can use to push back against in meetings with MPs and ministers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm going to ask the President to answer that under the agenda item with all HOs. He's made a note of the question and he will take that question, but this is the forum to Ben. So if you can hold that thought while I give the floor to you, Jerry.
Jerry Lewis Hampstead. Just a brief note. I very rarely intervene on such matters. I want to congratulate the Treasurer on a very good report and financially encouraging. However, your predecessors, and certainly the predecessor presidents, are well aware we discontinued having annual dinners because in the end it worked out it cost more money than the money we raised. What funds, what ideas do you have? Are you going to reintroduce annual dinners? They're very good showtime for the board. The other point which I would emphasise, we get tremendous publicity now because of the circumstances, and credit to Phil for the wonderful job he's doing. However, I want to make it very clear, we need to be more responsive, especially when the CAA are jumping in, getting credit for the things we're doing. We, the board, are the voice for the community and should remain so. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. We have online Paul. Paul, the floor's yours.
Thank you. Ben, I'm going to bring up an old matter with regards to getting money in for us. What about the non-Shaw members of the board making payment?
The non-Shaw members of the...
Oh, so, yeah, no, I understand. I understand the question. Are there any other questions, or should I do those?
I'd like you to take the questions we've had so far.
Okay, fantastic. So, obviously, first of all, Ilan, But I think my reply is exactly the same as the previous question as well. We'll have a look at it. I think there's a lot of sympathy in the room for it, but obviously there's there are issues around around sort of charitable governance. We need to consult further. We need to find the money, but I think we all feel the temperature of the room on this one. I don't have any. I'll just say I don't have any particular views on Richard Burgeon and the printable and repeatable in this meeting. I don't have any particular views on the Civil Aviation Authority, the repeatable in this meeting. The dinner at the moment we don't run. That the dinner was previously run because, in particular, even when it didn't bring in that much money from the community as a whole, there were specific large donors who wanted to see it. Those donors are no longer board donors, so we are not currently envisioning a return to the dinner in its current format right now. What I would like to do, and we've tried to do a couple of them, are smaller, intimate sort of soiree style thing with a small number of larger donors. But the main thing that is replacing the dinner, and this also goes to Paul's question as well around members who are not members representing synagogues, organisations, who don't collect the common contribution. The route there is the crowd fund. The crowd fund is the way where is the route whereby we go out to people and we say, you may or may not be a member of a synagogue, you may or may not give £30, £35 on your membership statement. If you like what we're doing, if you want to support what we're doing to that extent or more, here is the route to do it. And that's, I think we worked very well last year, and I think that's how we'll continue to approach that audience going forward. I am always open to other suggestions for fundraising events and opportunities. Thank
you, Ben. Do you want to hand over to your deputy engagement?
Yes, I would love to hand over to the deputy engagement team. Thank you very much. I think they have some slides. Can we move the slides up? And Lisa and Judith, it is over to you.
Needs to be set at 5'2".
Yes, well, we'll keep moving it. We'll keep moving it. Right, off we go.
Hiya. I'm Lisa. I'm Lisa Heath.
Yeah, it's not.
Sorry, I will try and get the 5'2" going.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Lisa Heath, and I've been a deputy since early 2024. I have a world outside of the Board of Deputies, and I'm a full-time HR M&A consultant, which means that whenever accountants focus on the numbers, when it comes to transactions, I ask them to look at the people as well, because most transactions have got people involved. I just want to put up a couple of photos of me, a bit scary, I know, because I was thinking just about passion, and these were 2 days of passion for me. The first was at the chuppah of my niece not so long ago, and the second was me snorkeling off the coast of Australia. And boy, both of them, I exuded the hugest amount of passion. The link being why I've come onto this Deputy Engagement Working Group. When I first joined the Board of Deputies, it felt like I was a member of a club from the outside looking in, and I wondered how I could get involved and engaged. So today, as part of that committee, my commitment is to look to you guys to understand what your needs are and make sure we have a fully engaged community. Handing over to Judith.
Right, hello, can you hear me? Is it all right if I hold it? Right. Hello, deputies. Well, hello, deputies. It's so nice to be back here where we belong. You're looking swell, deputies. I can tell, deputies. You're still glowing, you're still growing, you're still growing strong. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to sing your way into deputy engagement, but we've all got lots of different things that we enjoy doing. As many of you will know, I'm the Vice Chair of the Security, Resilience and Cohesion Division, and I have fantastic support from Andrew Gilbert, who is unbelievably modest. So can we give him a cheer, please? He's fantastic. I'm very involved with health education and education itself. I used to teach at Fortismere School in Muswell Hill. I was a staff governor drama and PSHE coordinator. And I'm also very involved with Haringey Multi-Faith Forum. And again, the support I've had from the board has been absolutely amazing from all of you. So thank you. We are really going places, and I understand that the Haringey model, not that there are not other very good models, is getting known for the right things. And finally, as most of you know, I'm from the north. I'm from Manchester, South Manchester, Cheadle. I married my husband, and my sister-in-law is also here, Emma, from Middlesbrough at the back. And my son-in-law is from Glasgow. So you can see where I'm coming from. And both my girls went to Manchester University. So I have a slight leaning towards the north. But on a serious note, it's really important, and there's been initiatives put in by the board to make sure that we're not London centrist and that we cover everywhere in the UK. And that is amazing and important. So thank you, a big thank you. I'm going to now pass you over to Lisa. And in fact, the buddy system, which we're going to talk about later on, Lisa is one of my buddies. So there you go. You're one of my buddies.
Thank you, Judith. So when we first started the Deputy Engagement Working Group, when we move to the next slide, I forgot to mention that. Thank you. We started to look at the challenge, and we broke them into two sections. The first challenge is, how do we engage with all our deputies so that they feel more connected to the board's purpose and supporting activity plan? And then the second one was, what more can we do to strengthen the relationships with the board's communities? In fact, Ben was referring to that just before, through our deputies. So how can we help you support to your communities and be connected through your communities? You can move to the next slide, please. I just wanted to talk to you about our working group members. And there's a broad range of current working group members. We have, to start off, Alfie Blumenow, who's just joined. He's an under-35 rep from JLGB. And in fact, I understand that he would like to introduce himself. So, Alfie, do you want to just pop up?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I won't be singing today, but there we go. So I am, yes, Alfie Blumenow. I officially represent JLGB on the board. And I'm also from Liverpool. This is my first board meeting here today, so thank you all for hosting. It's very exciting. Looking to make some good changes in the north, in the youth, and I think this is a great team to be a part of. So thank you both for inviting me. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be working on some great opportunities, so looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alfie. So, other than Judith and myself, we have Owen Power, who's a member of the York Liberal Jewish community. He's based out of Salford, and he's also a member of the Community Education Division. You'll start to see themes of how people are involved across divisions and supporting working groups across divisions, which we think is pretty important. Judith, as I mentioned, Muswell Hill United rep, Vice Chair of Security, Resilience and Cohesion Division, and as Judith had mentioned, the Harrogate Multi-Faith Forum. We have Rob Sassoon, who's a member of the S&P Sephardi community, and indeed Johnny Weinberg, trustee of JMAH, which is the Jewish Action for Mental Health, and he's also a member of the CED as well. Just while we're here talking about that, we've had past members who have also been brilliant contributors, so I just want to pay tribute to them, even though they may not be on the current working group. And with that in mind, just to focus on on Marilyn. Marilyn came to lead the working group. She made great strides with us, and we just want to thank her for her contribution as a past group member. So, just want to talk to you, if we move to the next slide, about our working group scope. That working group scope is to clarify the remit of our deputies, and I can honestly say that was top of my list when I came along thinking, and what do I do next, when I turned up. How we communicate with our deputies, and in fact Ben mentioned some revisions of those kind of communication paths, and we're going to make sure we take feedback from you on, is it working and what more do you want? We want to be always considering inclusion, diversity of background, gender, identity of thought. And we know that Owen Power has been working on some projects, and Judith's going to highlight a few as part of her speech. One thing that's really passionate and rather personal to me, if you know my familial connections with the board, is we really want to do some work with engaging with our under 35 observers. They are the lifeblood and the future potential Jewish leaders of our community. And we want to focus to make sure that we optimise every opportunity to engage with those important under 35 observers. And we hope that Alfie will be a really important mouthpiece for that community. And then finally, we want to make stronger social connections by engaging you in a much more sociable way that doesn't always involve talking about the key topics, but connects you in a different way through the community. And again, Judith's going to speak about that.
Judith, can I just tell you, you've got 3 minutes to go for this session.
Oh, right. OK, I shall whistle through. Right. Really encouraging everybody to have a buddy meet and greet. We've tried to initiate that with Owen and myself, and we should be able to spotlight Owen, I hope, because he's done an enormous amount in connection with inclusion. If we can't, he's made great suggestions. So can we give him a cheer, please? So, for example, he's talked about ensuring accessibility, space, sound checks, and reminding everybody that when you're on Zoom, please put your face on, your camera on, I should say, when you're speaking, because it makes it much more inclusive. We've got deputy coffee breaks, and also the thing I really want to, there's Naomi, who's also helping with the greet, and Owen. Hello, Owen. I've only got 2 minutes left, so I'll be quick. And also the vice chairs. We've been working very closely together. So Naomi's one of the vice chairs, and so is Claire Morland. And if you haven't seen it, Janetics, please advertise it, let your communities know. Josh Foreman is a new BOD, and he's wanting to raise awareness about Janetics. We're discovering that in Jewish schools, there is free access from 16 upwards, but unfortunately, if you're Jewish, and you're in a non-Jewish school, that's not happening now. So we want to raise awareness and get some community events. And finally, we want to hear your feedback.
If we could just pop to that very last slide, Leo, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. So that feedback is really important. So far, our action planning work has been within the group. That's not good enough. We need to hear your voice, because if it's going to be representative to engage the community of members, then your voice is super important. So 2 questions that we'd like to ask for you. What more can we be doing to engage with our deputies? And how can we strengthen the relationship with the board's communities through our deputies?
And finally, please, well, before I say finally, deputy engagement is at the heart of everything that we are doing, and we're on a journey. And we really want you, all of you, to be part of it. And finally, if you've got any comments, any feedback, please send them to Lisa. And we'd also like to thank Sarah, not Lisa, well, Lisa as well, but Sarah Radovan. And finally, we want to thank all the professional team and Ben's support also on the inclusion. So they're all here today, and Sarah in Manchester. And we've also got Toby as well, and Alex and Leo. Have I missed anybody out? Yeah. Hope I haven't. But yeah, Andrew. I missed you out. How could I? Anyway, it wouldn't work without all our fabulous team and you as BOD. So remember, hello, deputies. We're looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you both so much. I'm going to give the floor to Ben to do 2 things, to wrap up this item and to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Judith and Lisa. I really look forward to seeing the work of the working group going forward, and I encourage everyone to be involved. Although this is the end of the formal deputy engagement section, later on in the meeting, deputies will see that we have both applications for new member organisations and then the new speakers programme. There's an opportunity right away to get involved with deputy engagement and community engagement. And that wraps up the FFO side of things. Deputies will, of course, know the Board of Deputies was founded in 1760 as a delegation of deputados from the Spanish and Portuguese community at my synagogue, Mavis Marks to King George III. The history of the board and the history of the SNP deeply intertwined, most notably, most obviously, the figure of Moses Montefiore, who was such a pivotal figure for us both in the 19th century. The board has always had the senior rabbi of the Spanish and Portuguese community as one of its religious authorities, and it's such a pleasure to introduce Rabbi Dweck, has been one of really the most sort of significant, impactful leaders of the SNP in its entire celebrated history. Rabbi Dweck.
Thank you, Ben. No pressure. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank President Phil Rosenberg, Vice Presidents, Deputies, for giving me this opportunity to share with you before my departure in 2 weeks' time. It's getting real. I said the last time that I spoke to the entire full body of deputies some years ago, but I'll say again because I find it amusing. When I first arrived in 2014 to take up the role, I met with Rabbi Sachs, who was still chief rabbi at the time, Alav Shalom. And, you know, he was kind of going over British Jewry with me. He was giving me the lay of the land. He was talking to me about a whole bunch of things, which I very much appreciated. And then towards the end of the meeting, he said, you know, also, Rabbi Dweck, you are, with me, the ecclesiastical head of the Board of Deputies. I said, oh, what does that mean? He said, I have no idea. Yet, I am very grateful to see that, some 265 years on, there's still significant presence of the Spanish and Portuguese community on the board, along with so many other wonderful deputies. I would also sing, but I think I'm going to pass this morning. But I thank you for the opportunity to bid you farewell. And before I bid you farewell, I want to thank you, genuinely, both personally, as a member, now a British citizen as well, but a member of British Jewry, and also as the leader of the Spanish and Portuguese community, for all that you do for British Jews, because it is not a small thing. And I was told that I can share some Divrei Torah with you, so I will, pulling the rabbi card. And I found it quite interesting that this week, the parasha that we read is Parashat Vayishlach, in which Yaakov Abinu has some very serious unfinished business. He ran for his life from his brother, who wanted to kill him 20 years earlier. And now he's leaving his father-in-law's house, Lavan, who's our maternal grandfather, and he has to now face his twin brother, after having not seen him running from him 20 years ago. And there's this whole interaction between the two of them. He's worried that Esav's going to kill him. Esav comes and hugs him and kisses him and says, why don't we become partners? Plot twist, he wasn't expecting that. And it's an elaborate meeting. And the Talmud says that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who the Hachamim say was one of the greatest leaders in our history, because he was not just a great religious leader, but a very significant, powerful political leader. And he held the two in harmony in a way that most were not able to do. And it says that we have a tradition that he had a very good relationship with Marcus Aurelius. And he had to essentially be a diplomat to Rome on behalf of the Jewish people. And it says in the Talmud that whenever he would have to meet officially with Rome, he would study this week's parasha, Parashat Vayishlach. And the reason he did that is because there was tradition that Esav, our twin brother, essentially was the father of the West. That the entire Western world had essentially come from his Weltanschauung, right? His initial thoughts on how the world should be and how it should develop. And so they really did believe, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi really did believe that if we studied Vayishlach, first of all, he believed that going to Rome was going to our twin brother, right? So it's not just a cousin, right? This is very close, same family, same womb, same everything. And he genuinely saw the Western world as such. And the complexities of the story was what he studied in order to be able to kind of have a sense of relational elements. How do we engage with our twin brother? And, you know, a fascinating read or gloss that I find in it is when it says when Esav came and hugged and kissed Yaakov, that there were dual elements in it. That there was a part of Esav that actually missed his brother terribly and loved him very much and was overcome with emotion when he saw him again after 20 years, even though the whole blessing scandal was between them. And at the same time, there was a feeling of tremendous animosity towards him and tremendous upset and anger. And I think that we can understand those dual feelings that we might have. We can understand them on a human level. We can understand them on a group level. And we can feel it even in terms of our interactions. I thought it was significant that I'm, sharing this time with the board this morning while we begin this parasha, because isn't that what the board does? I mean, essentially, the S&P began this entire endeavor because they recognized that they had to speak to government. That we were a people that were living here, building our lives here, investing here, engaging here faithfully as we could. And it was important that we had real, honest, meaningful, faithful dialogue with the people amongst whom we were living. And that, I believe, is how the board has been for 265 years, and I think it continues to be that. I think that one of the beautiful elements of the board is that we do not inhabit this country as a separate people who figures how it is that we need to deal with the authorities. We are co-investors. We are mutually endeavored with Britain. And we have brought Britain to recognize that. And I genuinely believe that they do. And certainly His Majesty the King, as in all of the times that I've had interaction with him and that we've seen him, and many of the times it's been together with the board, that we've been either at the palace or in the engagements that we find ourselves together with him, that he genuinely believes that the Jewish people are here to help, to invest, to engage. They are a prominent and proud part of Britain and Britain's future. And the board is to be commended and praised and recognized for their approach as such to the engagement with our country, with this country, with Britain. And it is an amazing country. I'm an Anglophile. I absolutely love this country for many, many reasons. You think about what this little island has put out into the world, and it's staggering. It really is staggering, not the least of which the United States of America, in roundabout ways. But, King George III, there you go. But nonetheless, it's all of that. And so I think it's unique pretty much in all the Jewish world. I mean, it's not to say that there aren't other like bodies, but there's nothing quite like the Board of Deputies. And as I'm making Aliyah, yeah, you can clap for that. But as I'm making Aliyah, I've been thinking a lot more about the interaction and relationship between Israel and the Jewish people around the world. And I think that we can all say pretty confidently that it's fraught. It's not an easy one. But there's, in all of the nitty-gritty difficulty, I do think that it's pretty remarkable that what Israel is in all of its various elements is the Jewish people having been away from home for 2,000 years, in every country practically from A to Z, and now all of a sudden they have to come back home and figure out how to live together again. That's really what we're watching. And we're almost, kind of watching from afar and visiting and coming and going and so on. And this is what occurs to me, and with this I will close. The Israelis are phenomenal. They're amazing, overall. They're tough, but at the end of the day, they're amazing, except that there's one thing they don't get. And I think it's an important thing that they will need to get. They will need to learn how to get this, and that is they don't know what it's like to be a minority. And we do, and we have for 2,000 years, and they've easily forgotten that. And it is important that Israel, in some capacity, retains that, I think. Again, you can toss it in the rubbish when you're on the way out. It's just my thoughts. Because we have become who we are over the last 2,000 years because we've learned how to do that. We've learned how to be minorities and to retain our identity. And in most of those situations, be faithful as best we could to the host countries in which we found ourselves, even as we were persecuted and treated very badly in some of the situations. But there's also something that diaspora Jews need to know that I'm not sure that we do. And that is that we were a nation before we were a religion. And I do think that we forget that sometimes. I think that the world has pushed us into thinking of ourselves as a religion, observant or not, but a religious identity. And that is a terrible mistake. It's a terrible mistake. I tell a story that I've been telling for a long time, so I imagine you've heard it from me at one time or another, but I'm going to say it again because it in my mind, it kind of pinpoints this. So it was one of the responsibilities of my office, again for the next 2 weeks, is that I'm a president of the Council of Christians and Jews. And so we meet at Lambeth Palace once a year, all the presidents, along with the Archbishop, the Cardinal of the Catholic Church, the Chief Rabbi, the progressive rabbis, the leaders of progressive Judaism. And there was a time that we were sitting at Lambeth and we were talking about this easy subject, Israel. And I was sitting genuinely in a small group with the Archbishop and the Cardinal. The Cardinal said to me at one point, he said, Rabbi Dweck, the Jews, they're wonderful. I said, thank you, Cardinal. And he said, they're the mother religion. But do you really need your own land? Until then, I hadn't really experienced any anti-Semitism. I kind of felt that was a bit on the border. And I said to him, well, Cardinal, I would imagine that you've read the Bible. And if you read the Bible, then you will know that we were a nation before we were a religion. To which, thankfully, the Archbishop said, he's right, Cardinal. It's important that we remember that in the diaspora. That if we look at it historically, and the Board of Deputies is used to looking at things historically, we're all expats. We were a nation before we were a religion. God never mentions a Torah to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He mentions a peoplehood. He never hires Moses to give Torah. He hires Moses to take them out of this land and bring them to that land. We must remember that. And whatever it is that our relationship is to the current cohort manifesting in Israel, we are one people. And we are striving towards harmony. And it's difficult. And it may take another 100 years until we find our balance with regards to it. But just as much as Israel needs to know what it is like to be a minority in this world and remember it and keep it at the fore of their mind, we, the minority Jews, wherever it is that we find ourselves, must remember that on a very significant level, we are all expats, that we are one people, a national family. And I do believe that if we keep that in our heart and we keep that in our minds, we will succeed, as we always have, throughout the generations. And to close, I simply again want to say thank you to the Board of Deputies for all of your amazing work. And may God bless you all to continue with strength, with wisdom, with perseverance, with faithfulness, and please God, with peace and success. Amen.
Amen.
Rabbi Dweck, thank you so very much. Before I hand over to Phil to thank you formally on behalf of one of the minority Jewish groups, which a lot of people like to keep in the minority, I personally would like to thank you for an astonishing act of bravery from you a few years ago.
Rabbi Dweck, thank you so much. It has been just the most incredible privilege having you here with us in the UK over the last 11 years, and we've seen why again today. You asked, what did it mean to be an ecclesiastical authority? And in principle, it means wisdom. It means that we consult you for your wisdom. And I've just been so grateful that every time I have come to you, what you've shared has been wise, it has been kind, it has been just, and it's been righteous. And I really want to thank you for that. It's a really incredible mix of skills. You weren't here for the very beginning of this meeting, but we were marking today, as it's the 30th of November, the significant anniversary about the expulsion of the Jews from Arab lands in Iran. And I know your heritage is Syrian. And I think you're the first rabbi of actual Mizrahi heritage to be senior rabbi of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews congregation. Our mother synagogue, if you like, that gave birth to us as an organization. And it was a pity in a way that you didn't decide to sing, because your singing voice is actually so lovely. I think the first time I saw Rabbi Dweck, it was while you were being interviewed. It's a formidable challenge to become the rabbi of the SNP, because there's an interview process and a vote. I remember seeing Rabbi Dweck come, and he gave this beautiful exposition of Sephardic melody and Mizrahi melody, and it was just gorgeous. But I think, and I want to say this, and it kind of reflects, I suppose, on what Karen just said. I think as people look back over your time as senior rabbi, there'll be two hallmarks of your teaching that I think come to the fore. First of all, Maimonidean reason. And I know such a fan of Maimonides and that rational approach to Judaism, but also Torah Chesed, a Torah of loving kindness. And I think that is such a hugely important fact. And you spoke about the bravery. If the worst your critics can say about you is that you teach a Torah of Torah Chesed, I think that's the job done, really. I really think that's a huge success. So we've absolutely loved having you. We will miss you, but we know Israel needs you now. Hatzlacha rabah, tzedchem l'shalom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, deputies. Okay, so now we're going to begin the questions to the President and honorary officers section of our meeting. I would ask anybody in the room who wants to take the floor to go up to the mic, and people online to raise their electronic hands where Andrew is writing them down in order. I would ask you, in addition to identifying yourself, to identify the honorary officer to whom your question is addressed. And I would ask Phil to address Jeremy's question in his first series of answers, if that's all right. Yeah, good. Okay, and I'm first of all going to give the floor, as I promised I would, to Brian.
Thank you very much. Brian Bloom, Ajax and Hertfordshire Jewish Forum. Phil, deputies, a huge thank you on behalf of Ajax for everything you did for us this November. Your support across the country for the Ajax Shabbats, for the services you held in the villages and towns and cities across the whole country, where we, at this moment, still have Mogen David wreaths laid all over the country. It was a magnificent event and a magnificent response. And it's our way of saying to the others, the rest of the community, we were there, that's our Mogen David, we served. Thank you. My other thank you is a more personal one. Rabbi Dweck said a little while ago, yesterday Sedra was twins. Well, my family is full of twins. And yesterday, in Bushy United Synagogue, my family, my cousins, grandchildren, twins were bar mitzvahed. But they're a little bit more unusual. If you look at this week's JC, you will see their story. Brody and Ozzy. Now, Ozzy is fine. He had his bar mitzvah yesterday in the normal fashion. But Brody, he suffers from autism, desperate autism. The shul was magnificent. On Friday night, Brody can't take crowds. Brody doesn't speak. Any noise disturbs him. He walks about with headphones on all the time to dull the noise. The shul bar mitzvahed him Friday night in a little group of just the rabbi and a few of the family.
I've got to thank Radlett United and the rabbi there for their magnificent support to my family and to the boys. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Brian, and a word to all of the rest of the speakers. I have no intention of being as strenuous with you as I was to Brian just then. Excellent. One more speaker from here, and then the next two online. There's somebody online called Peter Bafus. Peter, that may be your name. If it isn't, could you change your name? If it is, I have mispronounced it.
It is Bafus.
And you're next, and after you it will be Michael Reich. Please.
Paul Harris, Masorti Judaism. I don't really talk about Israel much here. This is directed towards Phil and Adrian. I don't really talk about Israel much here. Many others have shared my views, and I recognise and respect that there is not complete consensus in the room. However, I've struggled with how the 30th anniversary of Yitzhak Rabin's murder has been marked in the Jewish community. In an attempt to rise above politics, this bluntly was the killing of one Jew who had given his whole life to public service by another who believed he had a religious obligation to kill him. The assassination of a Jewish leader in this way is a tragic, terrible moment for the Jewish state and the diaspora, all of us. So I didn't really understand why there's not been events organised by all the mainstream communal organisations, the different synagogue movements, to mark the 30th anniversary of his killing. It's not about left-wing or right-wing, it's about the significance of this event and the loss to everyone. I've finished, I think. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to go online to Peter and then Michael Reich.
Peter Bafus, Exeter Hebrew Congregation. The board seems not to distinguish between anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, but semantically and in practice, they are not the same. Would the executive enumerate how many ideological and/or racist attacks on persons and property have been carried out by British Jews in the last 2 years?
Thank you. Michael, the floor is yours, then I'll come back to the honorary officers.
Thank you. I now have been unravelled. Right, I would like to speak about the Aston Villa game, I'm afraid. I saw that Sheena Mahmood is finally taking action, getting involved in the action and asking questions of the West Midlands Police. There was a football match at Aston Villa during the week, and there was problems with the young boys from Switzerland, which was known to the police from previous situation, as there was problems when they came to Manchester City and they came to Celtic. So they've had previous situations. The situation that arose with regard to Tel Aviv Maccabi, the police believe what Ayub Khan from the Midlands, the MP, who is totally pro-Palestinian, did not listen to what was stated by Ajax when they got in touch with them. I'm very concerned about what looks like almost blatant anti-Semitism in the police, and I believe we need to speak to the head of the police to make sure that these sort of things don't happen, especially for the Jewish community, whereas it seems to be able to go ahead with these matches when it's got nothing to do with the Jewish community.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm going to go back to the honorary officers, so Phil and then Adrian and then any others. Sorry, Phil.
To Jeremy's question about Richard Bergen, the man is not taken particularly seriously by most people, including most of his parliamentary colleagues. So I don't necessarily expect the private members' bill that he's advancing to move forward, but you're right that the kind of general theme of it should be countered and will be. Brian, what moving words. Thank you. And thank you to you and all at Ajax for a most incredible ceremony. I've attended before in other capacities, but it was so moving to be part of it, and I just want to thank you and everyone. And the example that you give of your grandson, was it? Your cousin's grandson. and the treatment of a boy with autism and making sure that they could do their bar mitzvah is absolutely at the heart of what we want to achieve in the Disability Commission, taking examples of good practice like that so that across the country people with disabilities of all kinds can be maximally included. We hope to launch that commission in the early part of next year, and I'd love to capture that as an example. So thank you for sharing that with us, very powerful. Paul, on the anniversary of Yitzhak Rabin's assassination, I think you're right. This was a seminal moment. It certainly impacted me a lot on when I remember just the tragedy of it all and how it disrupted the nascent peace process at the time. There were some events I know our Vice President Andrew Gilbert and other deputies attended one that was there. But you're right to say maybe we should have thought about how we underline this in other ways, and it's something certainly worth us thinking about as we go forward. To Peter, I don't think we've ever said that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are the same thing. I think what we have said, however, is that racism is something that we confront in all its forms and guises. And we are conscious that I think there have been over 20 arson attacks against mosques over recent months. That's something that we shouldn't shy away from, not because, as you infer, there's no suggestion that Jewish people were behind those attacks, God forbid, but actually we stand in allyship with communities of all types who face discrimination and racism, because as a minority ourselves, we know that it is allyship that helps us fight back. So it's really important that we continue to take that principled stance against all forms of racism, in as much as we fight anti-Semitism with the vigour you would expect.
Thank you very much, Phil. Adrian, did you want to add anything?
Just with regard to the late Yitzhak Rabin, I mean, I likewise agree. There were various events. It would have been better, with hindsight, if they'd been promoted more. Personally, I was in Ukraine at the time, so otherwise I would have been there. I think, like most people here, I'm sure, I remember where I was when the news broke of his assassination, and I had the honour of meeting him and have a memento from him. And I do take time to visit the place of his death, his murder. So yes, it's something which has shaped in many ways what has transpired in the past 20 years, and we should constantly keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, Andrew.
Yeah, on the Maccabi Tel Aviv situation, the Birmingham West Midlands Police have made seemingly incredibly serious errors. They are still going on claiming they have intelligence, and that intelligence is constantly being demanded from people. Tomorrow, Craig Guilford, the head of West Midlands Police, will be attending, after a lot of push, the Home Affairs Select Committee to be questioned. And we wait for West Midlands Police, sadly, to unravel. And I was with Gabriel Pogren from the Sunday Times, and you can see in today's Sunday Times how this story is continuing to develop. Shabana Mahmood, when Phil, myself and others saw the Home Secretary, was absolutely clear. This used to be her constituency. It was moved into, with the boundary changes, into Ayub Khan. The people outside the ground with whom Ayub Khan is stirring and damaging community cohesion is an absolute disgrace. And there should be measures taken against Ayub Khan for misinformation, disinformation, and you can add others onto that list. Lord Mann is working very hard on this, and us at the board, we've raised this. I've reached out to Nick Timothy, to Lord Cryer, and you'll see that this was raised as well in the House of Lords. It's been constantly raised as well in the House of Parliament. We are standing up on this, and it's absolutely clear that we have to determine what evidence and on what basis West Midlands Police made a lot of appalling decisions. And when you get to young boys, the story of young boys, it paints a further disgrace on this story. We're in there, we're working on it, and we're going to unravel this. And I will be very surprised if there are not major changes in the West Midlands Police, and soon.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm going to take the next two speakers at the mic, and then I'm going to take David Benson and Mark Drucker online.
Thanks so much. Ifat Sofa from Lauderdale Road, SMP Safadi. Just marking also as a Persian Jew, marking the 30th of November, and thank you, Kharif, for your presentation. My question to our HOs, to Phil and to the other HOs in two parts. Phil, you mentioned the very, very important need for allies. One of which is I've been proud to be a part of the Optimistic Alliance. And I think our friends, our deputies, would benefit from hearing what we've been doing together. And related to that, to building alliances, I'm a part of President Herzog's Voice of the People initiative with Josh Aronson. And one of the plans that we're working on is reaching out, the Jewish diaspora, reaching out to Indian diasporas in our respective countries. Can we talk about it and work on it together, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Debbie Barnett, St Albans, Missouri. This is addressed mainly to Phil. As far as I'm aware, the board is yet to make a statement about the draconian measures outlined in the Home Secretary's statement on the government's asylum and returns policy. We are a community with immigrant roots. I myself have 3 grandparents and 1 parent born in Eastern Europe, and we know from our own experience that asylum seekers, and indeed those labelled as economic migrants, come to build a life for themselves and their families and contribute to the new society. We read in Shemot, "You know the heart of a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." Will the board make a statement deploring the measures which could force people to live in limbo for up to 20 years, not knowing if they can stay and put down roots or if they will be returned to a country that somebody else deems as safe?
Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to go now to David Benson online.
Hello, this is David Benson from Birmingham United Synagogue. Most of what I wanted to say has already been said, but I live in Birmingham and I have done for most of my 75 years. A month ago, we were very privileged to have Phil came to visit us and spent the weekend with us. His energy was absolutely amazing. He visited various schools, organisations, students and everything. But at that weekend, we had the issues with the football game between Aston Villa and Maccabi, which other members have spoken about. I myself have attended meetings with the West Midland Police, and it is an awful place to live at the moment in Birmingham. I've never been so concerned about being a Jew in a city. You know what's happening. Various people have spoken in the House of Commons, in the House of Lords. But what I wanted to say mainly was we're a small Jewish community. There's 1,500 of us. And it was a terrible situation we were faced. And we've got leaders in our community, obviously, but we haven't got a leader of the community because it's various schools and so on and so forth.
I'll have to hurry you, David.
Very quickly, just last 2 sentences. Phil was there, and Phil showed, when we needed it more than any other time, leadership and help, and the way he contacted people and communicated and supported us. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Jewish community, maybe I am, but I just wanted to, in public, thank you, Phil, for what you did when we needed you more than any other time in our existence. We needed the board. And Phil, thank you very, very much for how you handled it. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. Mark, the floor's yours. Mark Drucker?
Unmute. Mark Drucker, Reading Hebrew Congregation.
Yep, you're live.
Mark Drucker, Reading Hebrew Congregation. I just want to correct a statement that Phil Rosenberg made after Rabbi Dweck. My grandmother's brother, Reverend David Bennett de Mesquita, was senior minister of Spanish and Portuguese in the 1930s, and his great-grandfather came from Morocco. That's Jacob Hadida.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Well, thank you, Mark. Let the record stand corrected. Just to go through those comments, Efrat, yes, the Optimistic Alliance continues to move forward. We had, the week after the Heaton Park attack, a joint Muslim-Jewish solidarity event, and leaders from other faiths indeed at the board's offices. And we've continued to have work through the working groups, yourself and I, on a counter-extremism joint working group with Muslim leaders, looking at how we tackle Islamist extremism, far-right extremism, far-left extremism, to make our society stronger, and moderates from all communities strengthening the centre of that. And other groups, including the Israeli-Palestinian working group, have continued. We've been doing some work. I know Jeremy's had some really good conversations about education. And we did a joint visit recently to meet the Minister of Justice with a Muslim-Jewish delegation to talk about burial rights. So really practical. I know something Andrew's working on is rolling, and with many of you, is rolling out local engagement through the Optimistic Alliance. We've had some funding in through that. Andrew is working with our team, particularly Victoria Lisek, on trying to make sure that we're rolling out this initiative to every part of the country. It's really important that we grab now the opportunity of a peace dividend. Now, Efrat, as you'll know, I'm part of the Indian diaspora, as I think as your husband. So absolutely, you'll find a very, very warm home from me and from the board in terms of outreach to friends from different communities of the Indian diaspora. I saw that you were at an event with the Indian High Commission just, I think, over the last few days. Really important friends that we have there, and one we'll look to cultivate with you. So delighted to hear more about that and to work on you with it. To Debbie's question, obviously immigration is a complex issue, and across the community there's a range of views. But I think you're absolutely right to say that many of us come from a heritage that involves a refugee background and have come here either through what might be now called asylum, or certainly in other situations. So we've always called for measured communication about these issues. It's a complex area of policy, but we continue to work particularly with Highest J-Corps, one of our recently joined members, on these issues, and to highlight those issues historically and now as well. David, I just wanted to say thank you to you and the whole Birmingham community for just a wonderful reception. I said in a piece in the Jewish Chronicle after the visit that it feels like Birmingham is the front line in the fight for the soul of our nation, because of the challenges that the community has been going through and the extremism we saw, not just in the lead up to that game and the really questionable decisions of the West Midlands Police, but signs going up in areas of Birmingham that said Zionists not welcome, and it taking 5 days to take those signs down because the contractors were frightened of being attacked by extremists. We cannot have the state retreat. We need to advance. But the other thing I said in that article is that it felt like Birmingham is at the crossroads between pride and prejudice, because at the same time as the prejudice that we saw, visiting those three incredible communities that are doing so much, seeing a Jewish student scene that has 1,000 Jewish students there, progressive synagogue that's doing outreach to asylum seekers and welfare work, the fact that there have been 3 Jewish Lord Mayors of Birmingham shows how much pride there is in that community, and much to be celebrated. So thank you for that too. And that's me, I think.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give the floor to you, Adrian, but then I'm going to ask the other HOs to hold their thoughts, because I am keen to take as many questions as I can.
No, I just wanted to add briefly the point about the Indian diaspora. So, I mean, there is, as President said, a lot of work going on. So one of the things, a couple of things I've done recently include addressing the city Sikhs, who are an important part of the diaspora, in the House of Commons on the 350th anniversary of the martyrdom of the 9th Guru, and also attending the Diwali celebrations at the Albert Hall. And I know Andrew, likewise with the Sikh members of Parliament, has been doing a lot of work because of the commonality of interests that the two communities have. So it's just something that's very much in our mind.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take the next 2 speakers in the hall, and then I'm going to go to Jane Ginsburg and Susan Pascoe.
Thank you. Eleanor Milne from Yachad. And this plenary, I'm sure people know, coincides with UJS conference, which, hot off the press, just passed a motion overwhelmingly condemning Nigel Farage's alleged anti-Semitic and racist language at school, and calling for better leadership from communal organisations in condemning this kind of rhetoric. So, first part of the question, will we be responding to that and commenting publicly on Farage's alleged statements? And secondly, we know also that it's not only Farage, so there have been repeated instances over the past few months of anti-Semitism and racism by several Reform politicians. I know you recently met with Deputy Leader Richard Tice, so did you raise those instances with him and how did he respond? And that's a question for Phil. I should have said at the start.
Thank you very much. Karen, the floor is yours.
Hi, Deputies. Karen Maxwell from the LJS, and it's a real pleasure to be here actually in person, which is very rare for me these days. This is a question about the settler violence. First of all, thank you for your response to Zach's question in the pre-meeting notes, and Phil, your comments earlier today. Really appreciate it. But it's evident that it's much more widespread than a few isolated actions from a few renegades, as Netanyahu has been claiming. Evidence on the ground from our fellow LJS deputy Daniel is pretty shocking, and I'm sure he could give you more of that. So the question I have is, taking what you said in your reply, we need to see actions, not just words, which I really, really appreciate. What could we be doing to stimulate action? We've got some great relationships with a number of key ministers. Can we be using that to drive something that we do jointly? I don't know, whether it's commission or whatever. Some public statements, but even more than taking statements, we need action, and we need to leverage the UK government to help us in that action. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Jane Ginsburg and then Susan Pascoe.
Thank you. Jane Ginsburg, Seven Hills School. Question for Phil. Sheffield University Chaplaincy Centre hosted the Parents Circle Families Forum on the 17th of November. I was in the audience. We were confronted by highly intimidating, masked, pro-Palestinian protesters inside the university, directly outside the lecture theatre where the meeting was to take place. They apparently objected to an Israeli having been invited to speak about peace. Although campus police were in attendance, and I understand they'd been in touch beforehand with both South Yorkshire Police and the CST, the start of the meeting was seriously delayed. And the Israeli speaker, quite understandably, preferred not to appear in person and spoke from the chaplaincy centre on Zoom. How will the board intervene with the University of Sheffield to prevent such protests happening again?
Thank you, Jane. Susan, the floor is yours.
Susan Pascoe, Nesra Community. I wanted to raise the issue of the lack of statements by the board on the Green Party in relation, for example, to inappropriate comparisons to Holocaust and a strongly anti-Israel agenda. We know the Green Party is increasing in popularity at a great pace, and the board's silence is noticeable to the community. Our Treasurer Ben mentioned in his report about how the community briefing is going to be looked at, and it needs to be borne in mind that community is looking at what's in there, what's not in there, as well as what is in there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that batch was for you, Phil. Reform Party, Green Party, settler violence.
Yes, lots of populism and Sheffield, lots to cover there. To Eleanor's comment about Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, yes, absolutely, we did raise questions of anti-Semitism. And one of the things that had happened, in fact, the night before we met was a post by the Brighton and Hove Reform UK Party that depicted Zach Polanski in typical anti-Semitic tropes. It was taken down, but we raised that. And we've made we've been very clear that we want to see from Reform UK, like we do from all parties, clarity and purpose about this. Candidate selection is going to be very important. We sought to get reassurances on that, and we've got through that meeting kind of a way of rapidly escalating things that are of concern. And we have spoken in the past about Nigel Farage's some of the things he said and the people he's aligned with. I think that the challenges with this particular thing was the things he said were really, what purported to have said were very, very concerning, but they were 50 years ago when he was 15. So we need to be somewhat proportionate in our response, and we will be, but you can be absolutely sure that with Reform UK and indeed other parties will be clear. And same with the Green Party, frankly. I mean, some of the things, as you say, Susan, are concerning. the new leader of the Green Party has had his comments on the things we've said in the past. I don't think they necessarily think that we've been silent about some of their ways, but we will continue to raise those issues, as you say. We engage with all parties without fear or favour. Karen, yes, we've made comments on that, and we will be raising it. We have been in discussion with the Israeli embassy on some of these matters. We are, a few of us are going to a conference in Israel next month, and we will raise those issues while we're there. And I think more broadly, I want us to think about how we can play our constructive role in promoting peace and security. And I've spoken a bit about some of the things we've done in the most recent weeks, including, and I'll come to Jane, about bringing the Parents' Circle to the Board of Deputies. But next year, I'm hoping that we're going to launch a series of events that speak about some of the challenges, some of the ways that we move from the current situation to peace. That will include discussion of the what we call the final status issues. It will include discussion of questions about borders, security, the settlements, refugees, Jerusalem, as well as thinking about other issues like Arab citizens of Israel, the situation in the Haredi communities, the Abraham Accords. And we've just agreed, actually, that we're going to be hosting an election night event with BICOM when the Israeli election is called. There will be, depending on your perspective and what the results are, it will either be beers and cheers or beers and tears, but there will certainly be beers. So we are going to be making sure that we can increase our focus on education and be constructive in the path to and play our part in towards peace, and that's really important. Jane, really concerned to hear about that. I know Andrew's got comments on that because we are engaging on it.
So on every campus thing, Jane, when people come to us, first of all, we're very clear. We go through it with CST, we go through it with UJS, and we go through it with chaplaincy. So that's the landing stage for everything. Having done that, working with those, going and using our reputation and our space on behalf of the Jewish community. And after the meeting, we'll get a full update from you on that and check in with the other three organisations in each area. And we've recently formed like local Jewish concerns groups in lots of areas, and the students and the chaplains are all part of those local groups. And we will continue that hopefully in South Yorkshire. And as Sheffield's my former university, I will take great pleasure on seeing where we can get to there. And I hope chaplaincy looks a little bit better than it did in my day.
Thank you, Andrew. Adrian, I understand you want 10 seconds, and I'm not going to give you any.
I'll do 6 seconds because I know we're pressed. Just to point out, in case people missed it, that we did, the Board of Deputies hosted the Parents' Circle. It was a very impactful meeting, and I think it was very valuable for all of those who were able to attend.
Deputies, I need your help. This is a very interactive session. I'm disposed to keep it going. There's one way that I can keep it going if you agree. We have 3 proposals for applications to join the board. You have a very diligent Constitution Committee which has made a recommendation that we accept all 3 into membership. If you allow me to accept them into membership NEMCON, I can continue with this session. So I need to ask you, are you willing to do that? And if you're not, that's fine. But are you willing to do that? Yeah? Is there anybody who is not happy with that? There's people at the back that you want a separate discussion on the membership. You're not willing to let me do it. I know it's not. That's why I need your consent to do it.
NEMCON's NEMCON, but if we're con, then we're
yeah, no, exactly. I can't do it. Okay. In that case, I can't because it's gone 1 o'clock. It's.
Guys, we've got.
I've got 10 people online. I asked deputies for time, and they're saying that we'll see if we. I need to go on to the next agenda item. If I can, I will. Okay. If I can come back to this session, I will. It would have been my wish to keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So. Right. Okay. So now I need to ask all the honorary officers if you have any intervention, so I can close this item. No. Yeah, Jeremy, you can speak.
Oh, right. Right. Thank you very much. First of all, just to Sheila wanted me to mention that there are by-elections for, I think, is it 3?
No, there will be 1 place up for.
One place up for the regional council on January the 15th. The one thing I wanted to mention very briefly is, and it relates to, of course, November the 30th, and also the Bush Commission report, is that I've always felt, with all the 120 recommendations of the Bush Committee, the major thing will be the changes in the Jewish Studies curriculum, which will bring in much more information to young people about cultural diversity within Judaism, because that is what will really make the long-term difference.
Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to move to the next agenda item, which is on applications to join the board. And I'm going to hand over to Ben.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So for deputies who have not sort of done this process before, just very quickly remind everyone we're a membership-based organisation. Organisations and communities can apply to join the board. Organisations which are synagogues have one route. If you're an organisation that's not a synagogue, you have a separate route, which is you complete the paperwork to show you meet the various criteria. It goes to the Constitution Committee. Constitution Committee confirm that all the criteria are met. It then comes to a plenary for approval, and it needs a two-thirds approval. In the meantime, between the Constitution Committee meeting and the actual plenary happening, the executive also considers it and says, and as we did on this occasion, we're very happy with these applications, but it's the Constitution Committee who actually did the review and confirmed eligibility and so forth. So we have three organisations, and we'll do them one at a time. I'll just very quickly run through each, and then we'll take, if anyone has questions, a question or two, and then we'll move to a vote, which we will need raised hands for yes, and then lower hands, and then raised hands for no, and lowered hands, and that's both online and in the room. We'll make it work as we go. The first application is from Jewish Blind and Disabled. Deputies again have in their pack an overview of this organisation, which, as people know, as I think many people know, is based in Mill Hill, runs a series of properties which are tenanted entirely by Jewish people who have various forms of handicap, various forms of disability. They range in age from 27 to 99, and JBD has a staff of 12 who provide ongoing support. They run a schools programme, they're financially sound, and they meet the other criteria which is to be of benefit to the Jewish community. And on that basis, the Constitution Committee and the Executive jointly recommend their acceptance. If there are questions, I think we can do a couple of questions if people have. I don't see anyone here. I see a hand online from Richard Cooper.
Richard Cooper, Portsmouth and Southsea Hebrew Congregation. This is a question that applies to all three applications. The USP of the Board of Deputies is that we are democratically elected, not appointed. I did a quick count up, and there are 36 organisations which return deputies, which are not synagogues and not community organisations, and therefore not elected. That does not include AGX, UJS or past presidents. So we're talking about 12% of the membership. And my question for deputies is simply this. Do we want more and more organisations which will be appointing and not electing deputies? And it seems to me that this destroys our USP.
I'm gonna cut you off because I'm going to ask Dilys to explain how the Constitution Committee actually asks each and every one of these organisations how their deputies will be accountable.
The way that we deal with organisations that make applications to join us is to see how they're going to elect their deputies to make sure that they are representatives of the organisations. These organisations are, on the whole, they have a board of trustees, and then the trustees vote who will be responsible for sending a deputy to represent them. And this is a fair way of dealing with things because the people who use the various charities, the trustees are obviously, they have a responsibility towards those people.
And I'll just add that the more general answer to the question is, I think as deputies are aware, as we've discussed many times before, in relation to these organisations, fewer and fewer. Jerry, is that a point of order? So come up to the front and queue and wait your turn. As deputies know, fewer and fewer members of the people in the community are becoming members of synagogues. People are becoming members of synagogues later. Many Jews in the country are affiliating to the community through other routes, including through these organisations. And that is why the board, for many years, has been proactive in looking to see what are Jews in this country actually doing, how are they interacting with the Jewish community, how are they affiliating to the Jewish community, and seeking to increase membership on that basis. So that's, I think, the thematic answer to the question.
Thank you very much, Ben. Dilys, don't go anywhere, but I will take your question, Jerry, if it's quick.
Jerry Lewis, Hampstead Synagogue. I've always been in favour of organisations joining the board. I used to be on the Constitution Committee, and I'm well aware of the restrictions and difficulties, but I'm also the conscience of the board with regard to the Constitution. I object very strongly to reading in one of the sentences that a certain person will be the deputy. That is not an election. The people that are coming to our board are elected, and to read in here that they've decided who their representative is absolutely against the constitution of our board, and that, for that reason alone, I'm saying this has got to be re-regarded, looked at again, and remove the reference back until that is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. As I understand it, where we are in the agenda is we need to move to a vote on whether or not it is the pleasure of the Board of Deputies of British Jews to admit into membership the Jewish Blind and Disabled Society. That is where we are in the agenda. So although I would prefer to ask if there's anybody in NEMCON, I think I have to ask for those in favour.
Questions for Dilys?
Karen,
yeah.
Can I just say that in... Apologies. Can I just say that who are going to be the elected deputies are actually determined by the trustees, as I just pointed out. Yes. This is not someone who stands up and says, I'm going to be the deputy, and we get given a fait accompli. There is a process involved here.
So why does it read here? Oh, Jerry, you will be.
Yeah, Jerry, why don't I read the entire sentence? Since the only people intimately involved with the organisation are the trustees, who are also the members of the council of the JBD, as opposed to there being a membership of the charity, trustees determined at the last board meeting that their elected deputy would be Lisa Wimborne, the chief executive of the charity. I think, can we move to a vote?
Absolutely. So the critical element here, which is the deputy accountable in some way to the organisation? That is the requirement, and that is met by that, because the people who understand what the organisation is doing is the deputies. I want to proceed to a vote now, okay? Right, okay.
Can I ask first of all for hands to be raised for yes, in the room and online, and hold them up while the professional team do a count? They're going to physically collect the cards in, and online, I believe Sarah Adavan will peruse the screens and count. And perhaps we can have some. Judith, could you have some mood music for a minute? Well,
It's amazing.
There you raise cards.
Something appealing, something appalling, something for every... Sorry, I thought somebody else was going to joke.
Deputy's got talent.
It's sometime.
Yeah, if you're online, you have to raise your physical hand, not the electronic hand, your physical hand, so you can be seen on the screen.
Cards.
Yes.
Cards.
Of the Tory exhibition.
Okay.
Of the Tory exhibition. With the roller. We've got 100.
I was for a while, but
Oh, that's for all sorts.
Committing us in the evenings, it just got too mad.
I mean, I can run it past you if you want, but it's my understanding any short wants a free copy can have one. Really?
Yeah.
We've been telling everybody this.
No, but
yeah. We've raised £100,000 for the Roll Up Foundation.
And that's anybody who wants
we've raised 100. Okay, thank you very much. And votes against? Hands up in the room, hands up online. One, okay, I'm not going to count. But
Two.
Yeah.
2 in the room and 4 online. You've got the online vote again?
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. While we tally those, I'm going to move on to the next organisation, and then we'll give you, oh no, we're going to give everyone results each time. Yes. Can I ask online for the votes against, again, physical hands raised in the air for people online?
We did it online. I've messaged
I
the
was
results.
asked to ask again. How many? Okay, I've got the count now.
4.
Okay, so the vote is 96 in favour and 7 against. Congratulations to JVD, who are the board's newest member. Now, I do apologise, we did take 15 minutes to do that, but people can see now why we said we couldn't take any more questions. We're going to run through this again for another organisation, which is Nottingham J-Care. Now, again, I have the pack. People have the documents from the plenary pack. Nottingham J-Care is a CIO. It's a new type of charitable legal entity. It's based in Nottingham. Trustee board, of whom most belong to the Nottingham congregations, 2 are unaffiliated. They support various individuals in and across Nottingham. They work with social care organisations and the local community. Objects to protect and promote the physical health and mental well-being of individuals in need of such support through financial assistance, counselling, education, practical advice in accordance with Jewish values and traditions. And again, we're happy that they are deputies. I know this is not necessarily the most interesting thing to everyone, but can I please ask for quiet in the room? Thank you. The financial position of the organisation is sound. We're happy that the object's clearly charitable, and the Constitution and the Executive jointly recommend this charity should put to a plenary vote for potential approval. Can I ask if there are any questions or any comments? Yay or nay? If so, please come up to the front.
Go to the mic, please.
We've got one in person, and I see Julian Berman online.
In principle, this sounds great, but it's for a small community. Nothing wrong with small communities, but of course Nottingham Synagogue will have a representative. If we allow them, what are we going to do when Exeter Jewish Care comes along, or Southampton, or Portsmouth, or Falmouth? And we'll have lots and lots of small, so we'll be setting a precedent for other local charities to join us.
Thank you. Thank you for that question.
I'm not going to answer the sort of subsequent question. I think everyone people are entitled to their views on this. What I would say is that one of the criticisms people often hear of the board is we are a London-centric organisation, and I would suggest that saying no to small regional charities on the basis that they're small regional charities would perhaps unhelpfully perpetuate that. Julian, then Dennis.
Julian, the floor's yours.
Can you unmute me? I can't unmute. Thank you. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, just a procedural question. Are we allowing under 35s to vote at the moment, because it wasn't said for them to exclude themselves?
No, but we know the under 35 observers by sight, and Sarah was careful not to count any of them when doing the online count.
Thank you.
Thank
you. But it's a very fair point.
Dilys.
Well, we just wanted to say that the Constitution Committee deal with every application that comes in, and we deal with each application on its own merits, and we want the board to be representative of everybody and to exclude small organisations when the Constitution allows the Constitution Committee to allow those organisations to have deputies would be a contraindication to what the Board of Deputies is for.
Thank you, Dilys.
everyone has cards, but I wonder if, based on the tone of the discussion so far, we might try to do this one nem con. So can I ask if there is anyone who does not support this application, hands up, either online or in the room?
One online.
Is there one online?
Is there?
Okay, well, good for them. And I see a couple. Now I see a couple in the room as well. Okay, so right. So let's do a proper count. Hands up. Against. Against.
Oh,
Against.
Yes.
Against.
In your box.
Right. Yes. Yes. Against.
Against online.
Fantastic.
One online. It's four. Four.
You don't need to go through that.
It's Margaret.
Oh, I get your point. But
Emily.
Do we have to?
Okay, fantastic. And then hands up for those in favour, physically, whether you're in person or online. Magical. And the professional team will come round and collect the cards, which are, people note, a different colour. For those who are colourblind on it, I'll narrate a different colour to the ones used for the previous vote, to preserve the integrity of the process.
I think is this a constitutional matter? We probably do need to count these. It's what always.
Pass them on. Pass them along. Jeremy, pass them along. Pass them along.
So, yeah, sorry, I'm with you.
Sorry.
That's why
We've got 10 minutes. So we'll see.
This is so not good use. This is so not a good use.
Let's see how we go.
It's really disappointing.
Yeah, sure.
But they're not interrogating it. They're just voting against.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to count. We're going to count the votes on this one.
Okay, and the last one while we're counting.
Yes. So the third one is Hadassah UK. Again, deputies have in their pack the application. Let me just get it up myself. I think people are conceptually familiar with Hadassah UK, which for a long time was their primary role was fundraising for the obviously Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. However, more recently, and I think people will see the history of it in the Constitution Committee papers, more recently Hadassah are doing, bless you, considerable work in the UK in various respects. They were asked by the Constitution Committee to spend some more time and set out exactly their UK activities. They provide a note which we've attached to the papers, and on that basis, the Constitution Committee and Executive very happy to recommend their membership and put it to a plenary vote. I see we have a couple of questions. So can I ask?
There's one on the floor, please.
One on the floor, please,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith.
Gideon Smith, Hampton Gardens Suburb Synagogue. Hadassah UK, wonderful charity, great organisation, very happy to support them. But it's unclear to me that those activities that they're now starting to do in the UK are really designed to engage more young Jews in Jewish life, or more Jewish people in Jewish life, as opposed to simply further their own charitable aims, which are admirable. But to that end, it doesn't feel to me like this is the type of organisation that will be setting out to achieve the aims of the Board of Deputies. I noted with interest the uncertainty in the Constitution Committee first time round. So to my mind, this feels like it doesn't quite make the threshold. Wonderful charity as it is.
We'll do one more in person and then Paul, I see.
Owen Granger, Ealing United Synagogue. I see that this was rejected. This organisation was rejected twice. I think on basically on the grounds that it was premature or that they didn't put up enough information. I think that they're a very young organisation. They haven't got their feet under the table, and that until they can show their maturity, I think that it is too early to elect them. Not that I have anything against them. I think they should show their
Thank you very much. If you've made your point, that's great. Paul, your floor is yours.
Thank you. I've got no problem with the organisation joining, but I'd just like to bring up my previous point. We've got 3 new organisations that will be joining us today. Synagogue fees are going up. everyone's having financial problems. How can we expect to carry all these new organisations?
Okay, thank you very much. Dilys, please.
I go back to what I said previously, that we want to encourage small organisations to become part of the Board of Deputies. This is not always a financial matter, it is a matter of being representative. So far as the queries over Hadassah UK, I think we've made very clear in this paper that we too had our doubts about it, but organisations like Mug and David Adom have been part of the Board of Deputies, and therefore once we were given proper evidence of what their programmes were going to be, which are accompanying this paper, we decided that on balance that we would recommend that Hadassah UK should be able to send an elected person to the Board of Deputies.
Thank you. And just to add to what you said, it wasn't about whether or not they were a mature organisation, it was whether or not they were making a contribution to British Jews, and we were subsequently satisfied on that point. Andrew?
We do a lot in the area of fighting anti-Semitism in health, and every single Jewish health organisation is an asset to this board. And for people who are synagogue deputies, I'm very sorry, synagogues are an important part of our community, but so are the organisations that service our organisation. I'm embarrassed today. I'm sorry, deputies. As we go to meet ministers, as we go to take up matters to the National Health Service, I want to know that we've got all those organisations with us. Sorry, deputies. You should be voting for this unanimously.
Thank you.
We're very short of time, but Judith, we're always happy to hear from you.
Yeah, you need to go to the mic if you want to say it.
Hello, I met with Hadassah when they had their initial introduction, and they've been doing a lot of work with Jamie to do with mental health, and I think that's really important. And I also want to reinforce Ben and Andrews, we need to reach out to people who may necessarily feel very proud of the Jewish identity, but going to synagogues is not necessarily for them, but they want to be part of other organisations. We've got to be really inclusive.
Thank you very much. Can we go to a vote now?
Yeah, thank you very much to everyone for their thoughts and comments on this one. I'd like to ask for a vote. We will do it the standard way. First of all, those in favour, hands up physically, whether online or you're in the room. If you are an under 35 observer, Sarah will spot you, but don't make her work.
Oh, right. You have them? Do you have one?
Yeah, that's one of those. Yeah. Sorry.
It says 2/3, I think.
We can maybe move to the first of the 3-minute speakers.
Okay, fantastic. And then those opposed, in person and online.
Everybody online, please lower their hands so that we only count the people who are opposed.
Yeah, this is votes against.
We only want hands up online if you are opposed. 2 opposed. I got 4 opposed.
Okay, while Andrew counts for Hadassah, I will give you the numbers for Notts J-Care. In favour, 87, against 4. So Nottingham J-Care are now the board member. Thank you very much.
And we've got 4.
And for Hadassah, okay. We're still counting. We don't count abstentions.
Don't put it down that far. That's 4 against. Thank you all very much.
And the vote for Hadassah UK is 96 in favour and 4 against. So, congratulations, Hadassah UK, the board's newest member.
He has to refer to...
Point of order.
No, I have to take it. I have to take
a point of order.
Jerry, can you move to the mic when you want to do that so that...
I thought the points of order were referred first to the Constitution.
No, don't make me do that. Don't make me.
You can then speak to her and then you can decide whether it's a genuine point of order or not.
Well, I can't do that because then people won't listen to the next speaker. That's the problem with that idea.
Jerry Lewis Hampstead, and many apologies for delaying the meeting. I'm not against the Jewish Blind and Disabled organisation at all. I'm very much in favour. However, after hearing the Treasurer's comments, I want to ask, through the Chair, can we have a determination from the Chair of the Constitution Committee? Listen to what I've got to say. The wording that you read out, you're not the Chair. You read out the wording here, which says determined at their last board meeting that their elected deputy would be. Can we please have an assurance that this person has been elected and not determined? The word elected is not there, and I'm not satisfied, and we should not be satisfied, because all of us are elected, and I want to ensure it's a fair organisational rule.
Asked them to confirm that they were not lying to us when they described this deputy as their intention to elect this, and obviously before they actually onboard the deputy, they will provide all the necessary paperwork to confirm an election.
Right,
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Deputies, I really tried to secure the last 30 minutes for you. On that, I was not successful. You need to know that in order for any of these memberships not to have got through, they would have needed 1/3, that's 1 in 3 of all of you, to vote against. Okay? We got some votes against, we got some thoughts, which you could have had from comments, but they were always going to go through. And I would ask you whether you think that was a really, really good use of that last 20 minutes, because I really wanted to return the floor to you so that we could have a proper interactive discussion between you and your elected honorary officers. And you have taken half an hour away from that. I'd like you to think about that next time we talk about membership. I really now want to go to the new speakers programme, because it's something that we've introduced recently, which is great, where we have an opportunity to know who our new deputies are, find out a bit about them, and find ways of involving them. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to be as tight on time, but I would like to give the floor to the first of our new deputies, which is Lee Allen.
It's you. Just might need to come up a little bit, ever so slightly. Right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can I ask the others to just go up to the mic when they can see that the last minute is approaching of the previous speaker, because that will move things along. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I get a big 3-minute clock?
Well, if you start, we'll put it up.
Thank you very much. Right, afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Lee Allen. I'm originally from Gants Hill. I now live in Walthamstow, and I represent the shul that I've been a member of my whole life, which is currently called Oaks Lane Reform Synagogue. It was previously Swezers, and before that Swers, and before that other names with other mergers. We are a wonderful community. We're in Newbury Park, and we have 600 or 700 members, and we're led by Rabbi Jordan Helfman, who I'm a huge fan of. Professionally, I have worked now for over 15 years in various advertising agencies. For the last 2, I've been with VCCP, where we create communications for Compare the Market, Cadbury's, Domino's, Virgin Media, O2, Walkers, Disney Plus, among other names. So I guess what I wanted to say was, if I could offer any value to the board, it's that I spend all day thinking about the most compelling and engaging ways to communicate with the general public, who are, by and large, trying to ignore what we're trying to say to them. While it can be easy at times to do that when we're talking about things that people are passionate about, like food or like sport, we also have to work much, much harder to make people understand, and sometimes to care about, incredibly dull things like bank accounts and home insurance and accounting software or your mobile network. So I have great respect and sympathy for what the board have been doing and the work they've done in communicating our diverse range of opinions and views over the toughest period that it's been to be a Jew, at least in my lifetime. And then finally, I just wanted to say on why I chose to stand as a deputy. For me, it's part of a journey deeper into Jewish life over the last years. I have a great Jewish home life, but I didn't go to a Jewish school. I didn't go to a university with any Jewish organisations, and I found myself, when I got into my mid-20s, much more distant from this community than I perhaps wanted. So made a conscious effort, started to go to shul again, lighting Shabbat candles at home. I've joined the CST, I've joined the Board of Deputies. I recently attended the first London meeting of the Jewish advertising community as it opened its first branch outside of the US. If anyone works in any form of advertising or media and you want to come to the next one, which is for Hanukkah, please let me know, or Google it if you don't want to speak to me, and you'll find it online with ease. And so just to say, ultimately, what's important to me about the work that the board does is twofold. Partly, it's protecting our Jewish community and protecting our way of life. As someone who's part of the CST, I was standing in front of my shul on Yom Kippur, and we heard the awful news come through from Manchester. And I felt scared, but also, we didn't know what was going to happen next, but I also felt really heartened because everybody who could came out front and stood together and waited for the police to arrive and to secure us further. So the work that the board does to protect us is fantastic. But on the flip side, I'm also really passionate about what the board does in celebrating and talking positively about Jews and being Jewish, and to show the fantastic community that we have. So I support the board fully in the fantastic work that it does in both those areas. I'm very glad to be with you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Lee. It's good to have you with us. Janvier, please, the floor is yours.
Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry, and the next, right, sorry, my apologies to you because I asked you to do something you couldn't possibly have done. Glynis is the next one, and after Glynis it's David Peel, and then if I don't get a revolution from the floor, I would love to take Daniel Lightman. So, Janvier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Oh gosh, need something for shorter people. My name is Janvier Palmer, and I like to solve problems. I'm the new deputy for Bromley Reform Synagogue, a medium-sized but far-reaching community, serving Jews from Tunbridge Wells to Greenwich, from Gravesend to Croydon, and we're growing. Our Cheder has more than 80 children this year, which means two things. The future is bright, and Sunday mornings are loud. As well as being a teacher in our Cheder for nearly 10 years now, I'm also a B'nai Mitzvah tutor and a lay reader. Outside shul, I am a maths tutor and a hobby baker whose side hustle is increasingly moving to the front. I love learning. I love knowledge, process, detail. I'm on the autistic spectrum, if you hadn't already able to tell. Which can sometimes mean that my mouth bypasses the diplomacy department. So to quote another person, please excuse if I come across rude. I am from Orpington in the London Borough of Bromley, which is known mainly for two things. The 1962 parliamentary by-election and for having its own breed of chicken. So it turns out, actually, because politics and poultry are two of my greatest loves. I'm a Labour Party activist, and my pet chickens mean the absolute world to me. Something that is less well known about Orpington is that it is home to Sadeh, the Jewish farm, which is the closest thing you can get to a kibbutz in Britain. It is the first port of call if you want to reconnect with the agricultural foundations of our tradition, and you should go and bring your wellies. It is customary in another place that I love dearly to pay tribute to one's predecessor. Joe Millis represented Bromley for 12 years and encapsulates so much of what it means to come from Bromley. He is dogged, fearless, irreverent, authentic, unwaveringly principled, and I know deputies lament his absence from proceedings. Now, I can't be Joe, but I will do my utmost to do his legacy and the legacy of Bromley justice. Which brings me to my final point. This board, this institution. We've just gone through a disciplinary process so mismanaged that it could be a case study in what not to do at a governance seminar. It exposed a simple truth. Across our community, there is no shared understanding of what the Board of Deputies is for. We cannot become more united and more inclusive without a shared understanding of our purpose. So, fellow deputies, I leave you with this question. What do you see as the purpose of the Board of Deputies, and is it fit for that purpose? Thank you.
Thank you, Janvier. Next up is Glynis and then David.
Okay. Right, hello, my name's Glynis Joffe and I'm currently a trustee at Norwood Ravenswood and the deputy for the board. As the UK's oldest Jewish charity, Norwood has met a range of diverse needs across the community over its 236-year history. We've always been able to adapt the needs of people we support and have changed. In 2024, we undertook a deep strategic review of the needs of children and young people and adults with learning disability and autism. We used a reputable specialist health and social care research agency to help us to develop our priorities for the medium-term future. We consulted with families, other organisations, and took regard to current national policy. So our priorities going forward, agreed by the board, are meeting the needs of children and families and adults with neurodiversity and learning disability. And this is for people who need support. They're obviously people with autism are extremely competent and don't need Norwood, Ravenswood. The statistics on neurodiversity are well documented. There's been a 135% increase in autism diagnosis over the past decade. Many children wait for over a year for an assessment and diagnosis. This creates a considerable impact on whole family units. Delays in diagnosis often mean delays in accessing support in education, health, and social care. Organisations like Norwood are having to step in with a wraparound support service to meet individuals regardless of diagnosis. We work in partnership with other charities and organisations and offer an open front door, ensuring that where we don't cover needs, people are connected with the right source of support. Our children's services offer counselling, therapy for children and parents, short break respite services, sibling groups, courses for parents and grandparents, for example, understanding autism, challenging behaviour. We help children and their parents to plan for adulthood where there's a long-term need for support. For adults, we provide accommodation and support to nearly 200 adults with learning disability and autism who are assessed by local authorities and health as needing registered long-term residential care or supported living. Despite much progress being made in reducing some of the stigma around neurodiversity in some of our community, religious and cultural settings, we had a brilliant example earlier delivered by Brian, there is still some way to go. Inclusion is often conditional on meeting norms rather than proactively designed to accommodate difference. During our research, 40% of parents we supported reported their children experienced challenges with inclusion.
I have to hurry you, Glynis.
Okay. Inclusion in Jewish life. So this is my last point. Norwood is taking a leading role in organising a community conference in neurodiversity in partnership with the board, synagogues and many organisations. It will call Belonging Matters. It will take place in spring 2026 and it will be a learning opportunity and a chance for all of you to shape inclusion in your communities, and we'll circulate the deputies will get the information. Thank you, and we are very excited to be working with the board and all the deputies.
Thank you, Glynis. David, the floor's yours, and then we will take David Lightman. Daniel Lightman, sorry. To help if I can read my writing.
Good afternoon. We've had a lot of marvellous new deputies address us, and many of them have given years or decades of dedicated service to community organisations. My name is David Pearl. I come from the Ark Synagogue in Northwood, And I have to tell you that my record of voluntary communal work takes no time to mention. In my own synagogue, I'm mainly involved in cultural activities. Otherwise, I've had no presence on the Jewish scene. Beware the quiet man, said the politician all those years ago. I don't know what he would have said about the invisible man. So why become a deputy? Well, I have to say it was a conscious and determined decision. My rather gloomy view of our era is that Jews are under attack as never before, and that Israel faces a worldwide movement, perhaps a conspiracy, to delegitimize and ultimately destroy it. And we in the diaspora can't ignore these events, stand aside, opt out, change the subject. Being quiet is no longer an option. That's why I stood for election, and I've taken a full part in the international division. And for all the controversy of this year, I've been especially struck in my short time here with a high degree of consensus across all of the denominations. Every Jewish community on the globe represents a wide range of views, but the central beliefs and aims eclipse those divisions. First, we are absolutely committed to fight resurgent anti-Semitism here and in the West generally. Second, we are all proudly Zionist and will happily and publicly declare our Zionism. Third, we all work for the advancement of Jewish society in the UK. Now, some here do it from an explicitly religious standpoint. Others have more secular interests to pursue. That's part of the rich variety we encompass. In my case, I was brought up in the United Synagogue in Ilford. I moved to the Masorti. We then found ourselves in the independent Orthodox congregation in Bristol under a Lubavitch rabbi, and finally settled with our children in a liberal community. You might regard these wanderings as eccentric, but I'd like to think we took something from everywhere. I apologize to the Reform for avoiding their clutches, but since the recent merger, I think my ecumenism is now complete. And I want to conclude on a similar note. Ours is not a homogeneous community. In particular, there are large numbers of unaffiliated Jews and also a sizable number of people who may not be halachically Jewish, but have Jewish antecedents. Some are like my own children, born 6,000 miles away, but converted to Judaism. And it's essential that the board, as it does, advocates for all these groups. Talia Avrahami, an Orthodox woman, in a remarkable blog a few months ago, wrote this: "We face enough from the outside, anti-Semitism on the streets, in schools, online, the constant delegitimization of Israel, the grief of seeing Jewish lives lost in terror attacks and war. We do not need to make it harder for each other. The board recognizes this. All deputies do. Thank you very much indeed for indulging me."
Thank you so much, David. And last but not least, Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for finding the time. I hope everyone can hear me. I've recently become one of the two deputies for Golders Green United Synagogue, together with the incredibly impressive Claire Morland. I was born and brought up a stone's throw away from JW3 at the top of Arkwright Road. I went to Kerem Primary School. I went to South Hampstead Synagogue at a time when United Synagogue was seriously considering closing it down, until Rabbi Shlomo Levine came along and revived it. Halfway up Arkwright Road, I attended UCS, where I had my first personal encounter with anti-Semitism. The headmaster, whose name was Slaughter, tried to expel me for refusing to break Shabbat in order to play cricket. I was in the unfortunate position of being the only Jewishly observant boy who actually was good at a sport. Now, many Jewish parents supported the headmaster. They thought I was rocking a boat. We ought to be very lucky that Jews are allowed to attend the school. It seemed to me the first example I had of Anglo-Jewish lack of self-confidence, which I think has subsequently been diminished. I would have been expelled, but when the school governors came to endorse the head's decision, the Bishop of Rochester said that he wouldn't play on Sunday if he was compelled, and as a result, the headmaster's decision was overturned. So that's an example of interfaith dialogue benefiting. In the year before university, I I explored Jewish culture at Hebrew University Ulpan, Brovinders Yeshiva, and Brandeis Collegiate Institute in California, and I also worked in ladies' hats at Selfridges. At university, I had my first experience of Anglo-Jewish politics. As president of the Jewish Society at Oxford, I faced the challenges caused by the foundation of Rabbi Shmuley Boteach's L'chaim Society, but I also had the pleasure of hosting Shlomo Carlebach in concert at the Oxford Union. As a barrister, and since 2016 at King's Counsel, I've developed a particular interest in minority shareholder litigation, but I've also given advice to Jewish communal organisations on legal issues, and I also attempted unsuccessfully in the Court of Appeal to get the BBC to disclose the Balin report. I've also been very involved in an exhibition on Jews and cricket at MCC, which has highlighted both the Jewish contribution to cricket and also the often quite deep-seated and unseen anti-Semitism. And I've had 3 annual events here at JW3 in this hall, as well as a reception we had with Rishi Sunak for the Board of Deputies. I am conscious my time is up, so I'm going to say I'm excited to be involved in the Board of Deputies to bring some of the experience and skills that I have. And I'm particularly interested in Jewish Culture Month coming up next May, and I'm hoping there may be some involvement of Jewish cricket history in that. Thank you very much.
Deputies, thank you so much for your time this very hectic and packed Sunday. It's been quite the meeting, but we are nearly at the end of it. Before I hand the floor to our president to close the meeting, just a couple of quick things. Firstly, can I ask you all to pick up any rubbish you had, cups, saucers, whatever, just take it over. It makes the clearing up exercise a lot easier. We are looking for Kiddush sponsors for our meetings in 2006. Please form an orderly queue, 26. Please form an orderly queue and speak to Ben or Andrew about that if that's something you're interested in doing. I want to give our huge thanks to the Sassoon family for sponsoring our Kiddush today to mark Rob's recent wedding to Savannah, and tell you that Kiddush food is in the restaurant outside this meeting room. You just go out and turn to the left. Before I turn the floor over to Phil, I would like to ask Rob if he'd like to say a few words, because it's lovely they sponsored.
Thank you very much. Rob Sassoon, Deputy for the S&P Sephardi community. Firstly, before I say anything else, can I please publicly thank all 5 of the new deputy speakers that we've just heard. This is absolutely. This is a scheme that Marilyn Keane and I have been running now for a few years, and I think it's been an absolutely fantastic way to get new deputies to come up to the microphone and to be heard, and to sort of a really great way to kickstart their involvement in the board. And as I've said in previous occasions, one of our new deputy speakers from the last triennium is now the president of the board. So in that respect, I think the scheme has been a great success, and it continues to be. For those of you who are new, we are now taking bookings for the March plenary. We've got January full already, so please do let me know if you're interested. My father, a couple of months ago, came up with the idea, let's sponsor this Kiddush in honour of my recent wedding. He then promptly booked a trip to Florida with my mother. So he is not here today, he is on the Zoom. So in place of him, I thought, what's the next best thing I can do to show that, this is a Sassoon family Kiddush. So when you do all go outside and see the food that's laid out there, you'll also find my wife there waiting, who has very kindly come to join us for the Kiddush. So do say hello to her as well. And can I thank you all as well for all of your good wishes on the occasion of our wedding, which was now 3 weeks ago. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Before I hand over to Phil, I do want to thank all of the Board of Deputies staff for everything you do day in, day out for us. And that includes Michael joining us from online. That is dedication beyond anything. So thank you, since it must be now very late for you indeed. My thanks, of course, to Shock AV for allowing us to be technically linked to everybody in the hall and online. My thanks to JW3, and also something that our rabbi has encouraged us to do at the Liberal Jewish Synagogue, and I'd like to encourage you to do it as well, and that is when you leave the building, thank the security people. They're there, day in, day out. If you can say thanks
Always
to
do.
them on your way out, it's a lovely thing to do. Thank you very much. Phil, the floor's yours.
Oh, United have come from behind.
Well, I know the danger of standing between Jews and Kiddush, so I'll keep it very brief. First of all, thank you for an excellent meeting. I want to say a particular thank you to our Treasurer, Ben. This was a much easier budget statement than the government's last week, and I think we can make him available to the government. There you go. An endorsement for Ben, well deserved.
It wasn't leaked in advance.
It wasn't leaked in advance either, although you got some of it in the papers. But as we said, we were not going to be managed to kind. We're going for growth. It's brilliant to see. Thank you to all deputies, and particularly to Ben for that. As I mentioned the budget, of course, there were some challenges, particularly our social care organisations have commented on the missed opportunity really to support the social care sector. But we did see one thing that I think we welcome, which is the abolition of the two-child cap, which we've been campaigning alongside Interlink Foundation, the Haredi community. That's a welcome change. Whatever one thinks about other things, that was a really good thing to see. The next meeting we will have the 18th of January will be in advance of Holocaust Memorial Day, and we'll also have a State of the Union address by the President of the Union of Jewish Students, who are currently holding their votes and elections. On the 3rd and 5th of July, we're going to have our next regional weekend, and we're looking at it being in Edinburgh. So deputies, I'd love to see, if you're considering coming, if you could just quickly show your hands, if you'd be considering it. We're going to get information out to you soon. That looks like a really positive thing. We're hoping to have a whiskey tasting. I'm hoping to have you bagpiped in, and there'll be a walking tour of Edinburgh, among other things. So we're looking at in the proceedings. So that will be really very good indeed. A very new welcome addition. Have we got Liat here still? Is she still with us? Oh, she's gone. Okay, well, we'll introduce you to Liat another time. Two key themes of the meeting have been about inclusion, and I really welcome the celebration we've had of Mizrahi heritage. I'm glad about the new organisations we've onboarded that will particularly support the work we're doing in the new year on the Disability Commission, organisations, I think, that will bring real expertise to that. And so the last thing I have to say is thank you again to Rob for the Kiddush, and we'll leave you with another Mizrahi hit tune, the trio of Yemenite Israeli sisters, Awa, with the song Hanamashu al Yemen. This is not Yemen. Thank you very much. Hanukkah Sameach.